here, making sure everything is good before we start in earnest. Let's see, is my Discord server. Hey everyone. Good to see quite a few people here. Sammy Marcos here. Hey everyone. Himbo Urbanist, David Jackson. How's it going, everyone? Glad to see you could all turn out today. So, just so everyone, my first time doing a stream on YouTube. I've streamed on Twitch before, but it was a long time ago. So if anything looks wonky, if anything's audio is very low, thank you, History Leisure. Hey Dante, how's it going? Is that a bit better? History Leisure. It's fiddling around with my audio settings. Audio's low for me. Have the volume all the way up on the phone. Let's see. Let's see if I kick that up a notch. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. That's better. Yeah, so that sounds a bit better. Yeah, because I was trying to make it a little bit lower than what OBS Studio has by default there, because it looked like it was peaking. But okay, sounds great. Good. Very nice. Okay, so don't always take OBS Studio's audio mix bars as fact. Okay, great. All right. Thank you for joining me today, because this is kind of encompassing two things that I wanted to talk about since I really saw them, and especially after the whole fiasco with SEPTA a little while back. I've said before in a couple of my videos that I really wanted to look into the landscape we have to work with to make public transport and to make trains in particular, to make all that better in the way that they need to be. Because I think we can all agree, Philadelphia particularly, maybe not so much the state of, Pennsylvania in general could have great rail service, and so can a lot of states. But we're nowhere near that point, and that is for a lot of reasons, but none of them are for technical reasons. Absolutely none of them are for technical reasons. It's all political. It's all financing. It's all the political landscape. Yeah. Well, for those not aware, SEPTA is now in even bigger trouble. Kind of, but the thing there that's happened recently is that it has to do with the Silverliner IVs on the regional rail. That's actually something I wanted to talk about as a little preamble. For those unaware, SEPTA's Silverliner IV trains, they're 50-year-old electric moldable units that they've been using since the 70s. And there's been 5 incidents so far of these trains catching fire this year alone. There's been 5 incidents of that, and it turns out 2 of them was the same rail car catching fire twice in 2 separate incidents. So these trains have been pulled aside by the FRA for inspection. They had initially had a month deadline to meet. They started October 1st and they went to October 31st. They could never do that. But now they've gotten a 2-week extension. And with that time left, I think they can just squeak in under the gun on that one. Because the first couple of weeks, they had to do a lot of adapting to the new inspection routines. So that was going to be a slow start. But now they've really gotten into the swing of it. And they've gotten past the halfway point now. And with the accelerated pace, I think they should be able to get in, albeit just barely, in under 2 weeks. So I think that It's going to be a bit better here, but for the time being, what it's meant for regional rail riders is there's incredibly short trains. I've ridden a few lately. I know a couple here have. They ride regional rail to work. And there's been shorter trains, mostly relying on the newer Silverliner V trains from the 2000s, early 2010s. One Mary Pair caught fire in 2018 at Glenside. That was kind of I guess you could say a harbinger of things to come there. Yeah, I get on at like 5:15 every afternoon. I'm sure that's like an absolute mess, especially in the rush hour where for those that don't ride regional rail, like typically it's about 4 to 6 car trains. They've been shortening them down to like 2 or 3, especially off peak. Unless you're running the bomber sets, which are the locomotive hauled trains. So that's and they're using them more for off-peak services, which, I mean, I'm all for good fleet utilization. I'm looking at Metra, who are notoriously horrendous at fleet utilization. It's just like one train does one run a day, at least on some lines. There's some lines on Metra that are good, some lines that are terrible. But SEPTA routinely hasn't really run the bomber trains, which are the locomotive haul trains with the ACS 64 electric engines. They typically don't run them outside of rush hours. Now they're forced to. But as rough as it is now, there's a light at the end of the tunnel with the Silverliner 4s. It may well be that I was actually at a city hall meeting in Center City, Philadelphia a couple weeks ago, and SEPTA's general manager, Scott Sauer, was there. And Metro running an 8-car train in the middle of nowhere at 2 p.m. with 40 people on it. Sounds about right, Sammy. But then again, knowing where you're at in the DC metro area, VRE exists. I mean, I know Virginia's trying. Like, I gotta commend Virginia for a lot of things when it comes to passenger rail, but still, an old-fashioned commuter rail service for the DC area in the 2020s. Come on, man. But in SEPTA's case, like I said, I was at City Hall a couple weeks back. Scott Sauer was giving testimony to the city council. Hi, Riley. Scott Sauer was giving testimony to the city council and was giving them an update on how things were going, and also some interesting things came up for the longer term. And by longer term, I mean the replacement of the Silverliner 4s down the line. Because we all know with the budget crisis at SEPTA, they've had to pilfer the Pennsylvania Transit Trust Fund they had to pilfer the capital funds from that to keep operations going within 2 years. And the state government still does not have a budget. So you have that, and so you have that whole situation. But what Sauer had let out there during that meeting was interesting. Alongside holding back on new bus orders, because typically they order like 100 new buses a year. They're holding back on that for now. But one of the things that Scott said was that SEPTA will be putting out a request for proposal for the Silverliner 6s by the end of this year. So that's really good. That really is showing that they've got they've really got the fire underneath them to get this to happen here, because like running 50-year-old trains is definitely not good for anyone, really, unless you have absolutely no choice, which SEPTA has had for the longest time. They've had absolutely no choice. That was quick. I mean, they put out a request they put out like the sort of how to affect Reimagining rail. Is that still happening? Yes, it is, David. And we'll be getting into that, actually, because that's the first thing I want to talk about. So we're going to see what the manufacturers put out there. They put out about 2 years ago now, SEPTA put out the specifications they wanted. I actually talked about it in my Silverliner IV video a couple of years ago. So there's that. They know what they want to get out of it. It's a long way to go, but yes. Because even after they sign a contract with a builder, it'll take probably 5 years for the new trains to arrive. So we've got at least that, maybe like 7 years more of the Silverliner IVs. Oh, SEPTA. Seriously, if they weren't so hamstrung with so many things, they could be legitimately great. Like up there with some of the stuff I experienced in Scandinavia. Fingers crossed to do the right thing and go with Stadler. I would love it if they pick Stadler. I've heard, I remember hearing that was one of the builders that was interested. So hopefully them. Alstom maybe another. I know that name is probably going to give PTSD if you've been following Amtrak. And I think Kawasaki was another one. And V-Bells, well, they probably will, but they'll almost never use them because, like, when in the last 30 years have they ever used e-bells? Or any bell for that matter? It's just that they never... Yeah, Alstom. Yeah, like I kind of got a more nuanced take with Alstom as a builder with the Acellas, and that's going to be shown in my Acela, my history of the Acela documentary I'm releasing next week. Minor spoiler. Want something like Metro North standards. I like the M8s. I like the M8s. They're good trains. I rode them before, and I think they'd be good to start with. They're a bit bulky as modern EMUs go, but not a bad pick, I would say. I'm just hoping Kawasaki's interested because Kawasaki seems like they want to get out of the North American market for whatever reason. The comments in the Sprinter. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the locomotive hold stuff does have the bells and they use them. For some reason, the mobile units, I know the mobile units have them or at least had them. I'm not sure if they do anymore. In any case, we were talking about reimagining regional rail. It's kind of a nice little segue from that to talk about this. So this was a presentation at the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine in Washington, D.C. Back in September. So what this was, it was essentially for a university course, and they had a couple of... a few presenters there, a couple from Deutsche Bahn's North American division, because DB tends to do a lot of consulting work on American projects. And they also have one from Caltrain, which makes sense because Caltrain is kind of the one that the commuter rail operation that everyone is hyped about with regards to electrification, because I mean they just finished electrification. Well, maybe not entirely. They may want to extend it down to Gilroy in the future, especially when California high-speed rail happens when we're all old and gray. But the other one was one from SEPTA, Jody Holton from SEPTA. So, and especially having SEPTA here was an interesting choice because it's saying to me that, because the reason I believe they picked SEPTA was because they actually have a vision out there. I guess you could say, pardon the pun, but they have concepts of a plan regarding how to make Philadelphia's regional rail system great, and that's reimagining regional rail. On the whole, I can respect the drive to create reimagining regional rail. I think it's obviously it means that SEPTA realizes what they have right now can be incredibly better, even if you don't do terribly much. I mean, there will be some cases, I think, where infrastructure improvements are going to be needed. But on the whole, I think a lot of us can agree the bones of a great network are there. So, scrolling through here, commuter rail providers are diverse in their history, operational practices, and governance. So that's like all the commuter rail operators. So basically what this is talking about is how commuter rail systems have been forced to adapt to a post-COVID world where there's work from home a lot more often, and people want to use the train not just to get to work, but also for other things, for work and leisure. We really need, and let's see what you guys are thinking. It'd be nice if they ran both ways during rush hour, so you could go regardless. Uber to the park. Yeah. And about the future of Caltrain here. So with Caltrain, of course, they have to talk about electrification. They had a really good electrification program. They electrified all the way from San Francisco down to San Jose, past Diridon, and down to Tamian Station, just south of San Jose Diridon. And so let's see, revenue growth opportunities. Focus on, so like, and it's also not just the operational side of things. They're talking about like the things they want to focus on from a community standpoint, like, and also like the intangibles beyond like the big technical stuff. So you got like Wi-Fi on trains, you got better signage, a lot of that stuff. Partnership with event venues, which is really good. Especially one that comes to mind to me is like special service to Santa Clara, which is where the 49ers play for like big games and such. So that's kind of an obvious one there. Regional coordination, that's a big one, especially in the Bay Area, because oh my God, it's kind of a point of example here. Illinois, just the other day, they actually passed their transit funding bill, and they've gone above and beyond there, more than what was needed. Fantastic. I'm so happy for that. The CTA is not going to die, Metra is not going to die, and PACE is not going to die. And they're going to be doing big reforms of how their transit system is structured, how their governance is structured. And they're creating a new transit authority and a new acronym, the NITA, the Northern Illinois Transit Authority, which, Illinois is aiming really high. It's fantastic to see. I love that something at least is happening here. And SEPTA also, I think, could benefit from a similar look at it as well. Like, they obviously have the unified structure in a lot of ways, but it's also the way the way the laws are set up for like what SEPTA can do is one of the big problems. But in the Bay Area, it's even more dysfunctional. Like, they may have the Clipper card, which is like their unified transit card for a lot of their operators. I say a lot of them because I'm not exactly sure if it's all of them, because there are over 20 transit operators in the Bay Area. Over 20. I think it's 26, actually. Like, it's a lot of transit agencies, a lot of operators, and they're all really kind of working at cross purposes with each other, and they have their own joint powers authorities. So it's like this hideously complicated warren of transit governance that just makes it a mess. It's a wonder how they've been able to, like, get a BART expansion somewhat happening and also get electrification of Caltrain. I'm pretty sure they just were able to do it just through sheer spite. Like, it's incredible. So Caltrain definitely is cited as like one of the examples to look at. How many are there in LA? Well, obviously you got LA Metro is the big one. That's kind of the thing. The LA Metro is the majority, is the thing there. With the Bay Area, it's split a lot geographically. And then you have the tiny bus operators in LA. I remember Miles in Transit tried to ride all of them. There were 45 different bus operators in LA. Public bus operators too. Like, they're all run by the little municipalities, the little townships in LA County. So you have all that, and apparently they added a 46th one after Miles left LA, which I think was like earlier this year. So, oh my God, like, California, please. Like, I love some of the stuff you're doing, but my God, can you be frustrating? And of course, the same is said with SEPTA. And that's where Reimagining Regional Rail gets mentioned. So this was from the Assistant General Manager of Planning and Strategy, Jody Holton. Yeah, Metrolink will work as an electric corridor, if not for the basic fact UP and BNSF are hesitant to electrify their freight routes. Well, the thing there also is that Metrolink also owns a lot of the right of way, but you also have to work with LA Metro, and LA Metro is this weird mix of a highway agency and a transit agency. Yeah, love seeing them making transit, but yeesh. Like, oh my God. I mean, at the very least, it's going to mean that California is going to have, like, actual building experience of building transit projects to share with the rest of us. So, oh my God, man. But as for SEPTA, yeah, SEPTA is its own mess. Like every transit agency is its own mess. SEPTA, sixth largest transit system in the U.S. and is a critical part of the transportation network that drives the economies of Greater Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. And talking about like all the stuff it has, like 45% of the 5-county region lives within half a mile of rail or frequent transit service. Yeah, like and that's one of the great things with SEPTA is coverage. Like, obviously, the subway system is not as expansive as it was supposed to be when it was first built, but regional rail can make up for that pretty easily, especially if you run it like what they wanted to do in the 80s with an S-Bahn system. But one of the things that I think was, I mentioned this in my Denmark video, that one of the things that obviously SEPTA tried to make it more like a regional rail, but there were some fundamental things that they got wrong while they did it. One of the things I didn't mention was one of the things that make S-Bahn systems work as both a mix of rapid transit and commuter rail is that you have a decent amount of stations in the city itself that serve different neighborhoods. Copenhagen has a lot of that on the S-Tog system. German S-Bahn systems have that a lot. Swiss S-Bahn systems do too. Philly used to have a lot more stations. Within the city. I could think of a few like Fishers or what was it, like Nicetown. There's quite a lot of them out there, like a lot of old abandoned stations along the route, and you can see a few of them if you go up along a few of I think both the Chestnut Hill West lines have some abandoned stations. If you're on the ex-Reading main line up to Wayne Junction, there's two of them, Nicetown and Tioga. So you have a system, like I said in my video, is that they may have the trappings of an S-Bahn, but they have the operations of a commuter rail. Wilmington, Newark, for example, did until the 60s or so when the PRR closed. Most of them consolidate. Yeah, that's true also. And there's a lot. There were a lot of like tiny little podunk stations along the Northeast Corridor. Literally, they were just like wooden sheds. I think of stations like Colonia in New Jersey, and I think Edgemoor was one in Delaware, between Claymont and Wilmington. There were a bunch of them. Granted, there were good reasons for closing most of them, but especially the ones that were like far away from a lot of things. But the ones within the city, most of them should have been kept, I think. And I think only one of them was gotten rid of because it burned down in a fire, literally. Lack of wheelchair accessibility is terrible, land use around stations. Yeah, definitely. That's an ongoing problem. At least they're aware of it, but the problem is they're just moving glacially slow, as we're going to see here, as we will see. So it goes over a bit of history about like SEPTA pre-commuter rail tunnel. So like the orange ones are the ex-Pennsylvania Railroad lines, the red ones are the ex-Reading lines, and then you connect them all together in 1984. And now I was talking about ridership, like ridership recovery post-COVID. It really has been a struggle. It really has been a struggle for so many reasons. It's like because they genuinely needed to adapt away from like being strictly for the 9 to 5 crowd, and of course they always had like all-day service. But yeah, it's project decades of work, by the way. Which one? The tunnel or like reimagining regional rail? Because one of them, I'd argue, well, I think it's reimagining regional rail. The thing is, though, is the timelines of it all are ridiculous. Yeah, yeah, Dante. We're laughing at Link Belt Station because of how horrible the land use around the station is. Link Belt, Link Belt is the least used station on the regional rail network. The entire regional rail network. It's a little stop on the Doylestown line that's only used to serve a factory that's there, and it's not used for any other times of day aside from shift changes. That's it. Overall, the reimagining regional rail timeline. Yeah, that's what I figured. The problem is a lot of this stuff is stuff that you can do a lot faster than decades, and I mean a lot faster because it's minor infrastructure improvements by many other people's standards. Man, but this is ridiculous. Why don't they combine all the transit systems into PennDOT or something similar? That's actually something that I want to talk about down the line too, because it's part of that's definitely part of a vision I have for. Joe, it's almost as if you read my mind, man, because that's actually something that I wanted to talk about as like an actual state transit authority or state transit agency sort of thing. And you don't even need to look to like places where people speak a different language to look at that. You look at places like Australia; they have statewide rail authorities. They have ones like V-Line in Victoria or Queensland Railways. You have these statewide operators that run public transport services, and it's not just trains either. It's in regional and intercity bus networks. You have this, it's definitely within our grasp. It's just that I don't think a lot of people truly understand that that is something that is possible, and you don't even need to do anything completely crazy. So, the north side has a lot of what SEPTA calls railroad conflicts. It's a headache that causes all lines to be delayed during rush hour. I'm guessing that has to do with, freight traffic or reconfigure a lot of infrastructure. Oh, yeah, because there's a lot of bottlenecks. There's a lot of small bottlenecks that cause a lot of delays. So, SEPTA 4 strategic plan created during COVID was the impetus for reimagining regional rail. So this is the current level of service in June 2025. So let's see if I can zoom in here. If everyone can see, no, that's a bit big. If everyone can see what I'm looking at here, I'm looking at the map on the right. Yeah, state-level regional bus network that connects some seriously disconnected cities with a huge improvement in PA. Yes, absolutely yes. In Philly's, that's kind of the thing. You can, it's within our grasp, really, especially you can start with buses and then expand that further to rail service. It's not impossible. It's never been impossible in the slightest. It's just it requires a vision more than anything else. It requires a vision, and it requires people getting out there and saying, hey, this can be amazing. So as long as service levels are increased, reliability needs to be fixed too. Exactly. Like that. And the reliability improvements will beget service improvements, all things considered. So this is what regional rail looks like now now in 2025. Well, this is June 2025, but it hasn't really changed. And showing the minimum service schedules, like the thicker purple that you can kind of see. Obviously, you got the center city portion, which weirdly enough they don't show going up to Wayne Junction when clearly that is, and even going up to Jenkintown because that's 4 different lines. So you got basically from really from Fern Rock or Jenkintown, going down through Center City, through Temple, Jefferson, Suburban, 30th Street. From here, a couple of lines diverge. But this is 30 minute frequency per line here going out to the airport. The airport line runs on a half-hour frequency. It's the best frequency of any line in the system. And yet it completely sucks because of the fares. And I've even read that in terms of fare in terms of like what it makes back for what it makes back in fare revenue for how much service it gets, the airport line is the worst line on the system. So, and I've really chalked that up to its fares because it goes from Zone 1 fares in from like Center City out to Eastwick. Eastwick is a Zone 1 station. Eastwick is about here where my mouse is. Then when you get to the airport terminals, the airport terminal A is the next station. It goes from Zone 1 to Zone 4. Maximum fares. Like, oh my God. Like, what local willingly will take that in that case? I mean, just to avoid parking. Like, if it was like a normal, maybe even a Zone 2 fare, that would really inspire people to say, hey, I can leave my car at home, I can take the train to the airport, and it's way, way, way cheaper. Not just a bit cheaper than paying for long-term parking. So that is the best on the system. Most other lines, you got the Media Wawa line all the way out to Wawa. That's hourly at worst. The Wilmington Newark line, Marcus Hook, well, technically yes, because some trains in the middle of the day short turn at Marcus Hook, and also in the evening as well. So they don't go all the way out to Wilmington in like the middle of the day. So I see why they did that there, but but really out to Wilmington is hourly in most hours, but there's definitely some where it definitely earns limited service. And of course out to Newark, that's rush hours only. And about the same is true on the Paoli-Thorndale line too. You got like hourly service out to Malvern. The reason why they picked Malvern is because it's the last station on the line before Fraser Yard. So for operational reasons, it's really easy to short-term trains there and get things set up for return trips. And then out to Thorndale and eventually Coatesville when they finish Coatesville Station. There's some in the middle of the day, but mostly they just run that in rush hours only, which is stupid and incredible because you have places like Downingtown or Exton and Exton is kind of the regional rail stop for Westchester by proxy since the Media Wawa line was cut back in the 80s. And of course you got the Kinwood line, only runs 6 times a day and it's a dinky little shuttle. It's just the silliest thing. Manioc Norristown, that's hourly. Both the Chestnut Hill lines hourly, which is incredibly stupid for lines that never leave the city, and essentially they could be rapid transit lines for all we care. I get for Chestnut Hill West that there's a big bottleneck there. There is the Keystone though. You are right. There is the Keystone service out to Downingtown and Coatesville and eventually out to Harrisburg. But the problem is you're paying Amtrak fares for commuter trains. Granted, Amtrak fares on the Keystone service aren't horrible, but you're still paying a lot of money. You're still paying a lot of money to ride from, let's say, Downingtown to Center City. When that could be a much more frequent commuter train for cheaper. So you got both the Chestnut Hill lines hourly. The Fox Chase line is also hourly. Again, ridiculous because that never leaves the city. West Trenton line's also hourly, and so is Warminster and Doylestown. And of course, on the Doylestown line, some trains short term at Lansdale. So let's see what they have in mind. This is what SEPTA wants to see. So now you see some red on the map here. The red is kind of harkening back to the R number system because they want to create 15-minute off-peak frequencies on these lines marked in red, and they want to call them the S line. This kind of goes back to because I remember in the Reimagining Regional Rail, the original release of it, they called them the Silver Line, named after the Silverliners. So they have all these lines here marked in red that would be like 15 minutes off-peak frequency for each service. And and they have it marked in thick red lines here. There's also a thick purple line here. That's officially they call it the Glenside Combined. So that's also 15-minute frequencies. The reason I think that it's not red is because that's 4 different services that basically serve all those stations every 15 minutes there. So that's the airport line as far as Glenside, because the airport line goes from Glenside to the airport. The Doylestown line, the Warminster line, and the West Trenton line. So essentially, since you have all 4 of those lines, that would serve. The trunk is basically 3 lines. So so that basically is 15-minute service by proxy. But for like say Fox Chase, Chestnut Hill East, Norristown, the Paoli Thorndale line as far as Paoli, and Media Wawa the whole way, which as someone who lives in Media and lives along the Media Wawa line, I approve. I really like that. And of course the airport lines every 15 minutes. So that's good. So overall, not a bad vision. Not a bad idea for the core of your network. I am noticing a few things with this, though. Firstly, Chestnut Hill East is every 15 minutes. That's fair. Chestnut Hill West is still hourly, off-peak. And I'm also noticing more lines are getting hourly service off-peak. So the Kinwood line, the Kinwood Dinky, is getting hourly service under this vision. Say what you will about the Kinwood line. I respect that. I respect them trying to make that viable. This blasphemy that is still 60-minute service past Neshaminy. That's actually something I want to get to there. Why? Like, some of these service patterns make very little sense to me. So with Chestnut Hill West being hourly, it's pretty obvious that there is no Swampoodle connection in this vision here. For those that watched my Denmark video where I talked about SEPTA's regional rail plans, the Chestnut Hill West line was supposed to be diverted away from the Northeast Corridor. Like right now, it connects with the Northeast Corridor / Trenton line at North Philadelphia Station. But they wanted to change that. They wanted to connect into the Manayunk-Norristown line and get rid of a really frustrating bottleneck in the system and also improve frequency. Because Chestnut Hill West, even back in the Pennsylvania Railroad days, was half-hourly off-peak. Half-hourly off-peak during the days of the Pennsylvania Railroad with MP54s. What the heck? And I get why, to a degree. I get the whole politics of it all. And there is politics to this. There is politics to this, folks. So with Chestnut Hill West, it's obvious there's no Swampoodle connection being looked at here. So that is obviously not being considered here. The other ones, though, are just weird. Especially with some of the routes that are being short-turned in the most ridiculous places I can think of. So for the Lansdale-Doylestown line, they want to be half-hourly off-peak up to Lansdale. Good. That's really good. But they want to be hourly to Doylestown. That I can understand because Lansdale is one of the busiest stations on the system. It makes a lot of sense to short-term the trains there, especially since the Doylestown line after Lansdale is mostly single-tracked. And that actually kind of gets into a theme I see with this. It seems like they want to do this with minimal investment in infrastructure. And I mean minimal. They obviously don't want to double-track Lansdale-Doylestown. It used to be double-tracked a couple more places in the past, and then they kind of ripped that up under the Reading Company and Conrail. So with Lansdale-Doylestown, I get that. It makes sense. Warminster, they want it to be half-hourly off-peak. I can respect that. You probably need to add back in the passing siding they ripped out at Willow Grove. Does Kinwood line even have the ridership for 60 minutes? Maybe. It's a big maybe on that one. I do get the adage that you run more trains, more people will do it because they see it as a more viable option. Because like 6 times a day, especially for a line that again never leaves the city, is completely asinine. Like it makes no sense. Yeah, Kenwood line would have higher ridership if it ran more often. I agree with you there, Dante. So yeah, like I could definitely respect that. I want to see how that goes there. Like maybe you run like a 2-car train out to Kenwood every hour. That could probably do you some good. If it works, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. The weird ones though are the Trenton line, West Trenton line, and Wilmington Newark. Wilmington Newark, kind of easy to explain, and same with the Trenton line, because there's one thing that you always have to keep in mind with these lines. With the Trenton line, the Wilmington Newark line, the Paoli Thorndale line, even though like SEPTA would throw like as much of their resources into that line as possible because that is their highest ridership line. They get a ton of ridership off of that line. And also lines that connect into those lines. Those lines are owned by Amtrak. SEPTA does not own them. They have to pay Amtrak to access them. And they have to pay them by, not just by train, but by the number of cars that they run on each line. They're charged by the car that SEPTA runs over those lines there. I mean, it's a crazy system. It really is. And it actually goes into a video I'm working on down the line. Pasadena Willow Grove is still intact. The one in Hatboro was ripped out. Thank you. So that one I got wrong. So it's Hatboro that needs to be put back in. But with Trenton, yeah, and catenary rates too. So they charge for the catenary. And they charge for electrical use because, again, Amtrak owns the electrical systems of the Northeast Corridor, basically all the way up to New York City. I'm not entirely sure who owns the substations in, like, Connecticut. I know, like, that's, like, half Amtrak, like... I know, like, the Northeast Corridor in Connecticut is, like... it's Amtrak-owned east of New Haven, and west of New Haven, it's CT Dot and Metro North, the MTA, rather, all under Metro North. But in any case, in SEPTA's case... Again, they have to pay for catenary. No, it's not by pantograph. I don't think it's by pantograph. It's by voltage. It's by like how much energy they actually use. At least I think that's the case. I could be wrong. But in terms of like how many cars that they actually run on the line is also one of the things they get charged with in terms of track access. It's partly why Conrail quit the electric freight locomotive business, those pesky rates. Yeah, that's one thing. And also because, like, Conrail was really into cost-cutting early on, and they're like we're kind of, like, we obviously can't invest too much into electrification down the line, so... And especially since we're kind of in a falling out with Amtrak over the Northeast Corridor, so they really didn't see much purpose in keeping electrified freight, I don't think. So... That's kind of a problem. And that was kind of the problem that led Conrail to quit electric freight, which is sad. It's really sad. So with the Amtrak-owned routes, SEPTA obviously has to pay. But what makes them think some of these ideas is really going to work? I look at Paoli Thorndale, for instance. This is obviously the one they would chuck their resources into. It's their highest ridership line by far. It's not even close. Most, like, at least a fifth of SEPTA's regional rail ridership is Paoli Thorndale. The main line of suburbs draws in a lot of riders. So you have a frequent service, 15 minutes out to Paoli. A good idea. Really good idea, actually. And as we're going to see later on, the state and PennDOT has ideas for making this better. They have plans afoot for this. Beyond Paoli, they want it to be hourly out to Thorndale and Coatesville. That is really good. That's a lot better than what it is now. I'd love to see it every 30 minutes, but I'm guessing it's because of track access stuff here, and also because you'd have to rearrange a lot of stuff on the Keystone Corridor there, because like in terms of track layout, the Keystone Corridor is kind of a jumbled mess, especially past especially with Thorndale Yard and past Malvern. A lot of it's kind of a mess at this point. The weird ones, though, to me, are on the Northeast Corridor itself. So the Northeast Corridor, Paoli Thorndale is by far the highest. It's not even close. So Wilmington, Newark, and Trenton run on Amtrak's Northeast Corridor. This is the busiest passenger rail line in North America, period. And they run it from Newark, Delaware, near the Maryland border, up through Wilmington, through Marcus Hook, and all the way up through Delco, through Delaware County, into Center City. And, of course, they go out to the Reading side. The Trenton line goes up through North Philadelphia, out through, up through a lot of through Northeast Philly, out into Bristol, into Bucks County, through Bristol, and up to Trenton. So, yeah, west of Paoli, Pennsy Main Line is 2 tracks, been the way since the 60s. Yeah, that's kind of the root of the problem. And it's also kind of a problem on the Northeast Corridor too, especially in Maryland. There's a lot of double track sections there, and especially since Mark wants to expand commuter rail service out to especially since Mark wants to expand commuter rail service out of Maryland all the way up to Wilmington. That needs to be rectified before that begins. That's kind of the main thing holding that back for now, and new equipment, and the Frederick Douglass Tunnel. So the weird ones to me are the frequencies that they want to do for the Trenton line and Wilmington Newark. For Wilmington Newark, you have 30-minute frequency to Marcus Hook. Now, Marcus Hook, I can somewhat understand. I can somewhat get this for 2 reasons. One is because of the having to pay for it, and Marcus Hook, aside from Wilmington, Marcus Hook is one of the last busy stations on that line. I don't really count Claymont as being too busy. It's a park and ride, as I yelled about in my Metro Park video. So with Marcus Hook, I can kind of understand it, and especially for the other reason, which is, like, where I got my mouse now, that's Claymont Station. Just past Claymont, the Northeast Corridor majorly bottlenecks from 4 tracks to 2. It goes down to 2 tracks. That's partly because of the junction with the former Pennsylvania Railroad, currently Norfolk Southern Shellpot Secondary. It's a freight line that Norfolk Southern has trackage rights to use, and they use that part to store a lot of freight rail equipment. If you ever go to Fox Point State Park, there's usually a ton of freight cars there. It's why I kind of get annoyed when I try to film there. Typically, is blocked by a lot of I think nowadays I've mostly seen auto rack cars, but in the past I saw a lot of tankers there because there used to be a lot of chemical plants there, including a former DuPont plant. So there's a major bottleneck you got to deal with traffic-wise there. You need to expand that if you want reliable frequency. And I think the only time Amtrak is going to look into that, Amtrak has bigger fish to fry at the moment as far as they're concerned. They got these big infrastructure projects that they're working on with the Northeast Corridor, including the Gateway Project, which is still moving despite popular belief. That project is still moving. And it's actually been seen that construction crews are still doing their thing on that line. So that's a major issue to resolve if you want to go beyond the 60-minute frequency that they want to do all the way to Newark, which I highly respect because that's much better service to that part of Delaware. And especially since DelDOT wants to do a passenger rail service from Wilmington down south into the southern part of the state and into the Delmarva Peninsula down to Maryland, that'd be really cool. That'd be like a nice little capstone there. Yes, build the tunnel. Yeah, they are still working on that. They're still seeing construction boats out in the middle of the water, getting stuff ready for that. So I think they're just laying low on that one. Lucid Stu talked about it in his video the other day. So they are still moving. They're just laying low on this whole thing. They're not really trying to stir the pot much at all, which I understand given the circumstance. SEPTA should definitely go to Reading. Yeah. I know that's going to be probably going to be Amtrak with the Schuylkill River Passenger Rail Authority, and I'd love to actually talk to those guys. I would legitimately love to talk to them to see like how they're going about it, what they want to do, especially since Reading and a lot of the towns up there like Pottstown and Limerick, all those places and Phoenixville, they would thrive with such a service. They would love it, especially since it takes a lot of cars off of hell incarnate that is the Schuylkill Expressway. So Wilmington Newark, back to that. Wilmington Newark is nearly I can understand this to a degree. The one I don't get is the Trenton line. So Trenton line, they want to do half hourly. Right now it's hourly off peak. And when I say that, I always have to reiterate it's hourly off peak. Like they improve frequencies for rush hours, for big travel periods. So like this is the minimum level of service you can expect. So for something like the S line with 15 minutes off peak, maybe they'd run 10 at certain times in rush hours. And also stop in Royersford as well. I think they're looking into stopping in Royersford. That would be really good, both Royersford and Spring City. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I think they got a few stations in mind there. I need to look a bit closer into what they want to do. I think that may come up in our discussion of the state rail plan. So for the Trenton line, goes up through North Philly, half hourly frequency. Okay, so this is like Bridesburg, Torresdale, out to like Cornwall's Heights, to Croydon, all the way up. And then half hourly service ends at Bristol? Excuse me, what? All those renovations to Levittown only get 60-minute frequency. You're exactly right. Like, why? Not only why, but how? Like, I've looked into like the track layout here. In fact, I'm pretty sure. One sec. Let's bring up open railway map. Let's bring up open railway map for a second. So this is the Trenton line here. So we're at about Cornwall's Heights. This is quad tracked. The two red lines in the middle here are the higher speed lines for Amtrak, and the outer ones are for SEPTA. So like if we look at max speeds, it's 125 miles an hour through here and 100 on the outer tracks. Eddington is quad tracked. Croydon is quad tracked. Bristol is also quad tracked, but see if you can notice something here. If we go up a little bit further up the line, keep going. You notice what you don't see here? You notice what you don't see when you look at this until like you get about here. Where's the crossovers? Where's the switches? Where can you terminate a train at Bristol? Especially without holding one up. It makes no sense. It makes legitimately no sense to turn trains around at Bristol. Like, Levittown is not that far away, and Levittown can get decent park and ride ridership. And yeah, like, and you're right, Jessica. The track is there's track used by Conrail Shared Assets. Like, why? What even, what were you thinking with that? Like, do you think that, like, because New Jersey doesn't subsidize the service into Jersey, like, do you think that's a good idea? Like, seriously, just run to Trenton. 30-minute service off-peak to Trenton would be amazing. That would be legitimately great. It would get you more ridership and more revenue than, like, if I didn't love you, I'd hate you, SEPTA. But prepare for the first use of my soundboard on this channel. But this just sounds to me like
skill issue.
Or
skill issue.
Yeah, it sounds like a skill issue. Like, what is the point? It must be an oversight. If it seems like no way the Trenton line will go all the way to Trenton with half hour frequency. Yeah, like, this is so weird because, like, legitimately, the only place you can turn a train around on the Trenton line is Trenton itself. It does not make any sense whatsoever. I know I seem like I'm overreacting to this, but it's just one of those things that makes me question whether this is a serious concept, or if it's just to say, like, hey, we've got some ideas, like, to the lay person out there. But like, oh my god, yeah, it's just such a weird idea. And this whole arrangement says to me, especially if we look beyond the map here, and here we talk about underlying demand for services. So all these frequency improvements, like the frequency improvements in general, are good. I'm not going to discredit that. And there's a lot of good that can come from this, but it's still nowhere near its potential because they seem to have locked themselves into a mentality that the state is not going to come up with a cohesive rail plan. They're not going to come up with a cohesive plan for this. Not much is going to change. This is all around stuff that currently exists. And since SEPTA historically has not had the mechanisms to drum up funding for big infrastructure projects, that they're just working with the status quo in mind and not much else. And you are right that there is no stamp of approval on this just yet. This will be years of planning. That's kind of the problem. It's going to be years of planning. Yeah, like this will definitely be revised. It's just that if they like settle on a low ball here, I kind of consider this to be a low ball in terms of what the regional rail system could be. Of course, my visions rely on a lot of things changing structurally, but and I get why they're going through this, but even then, there's more you can squeeze out of with this. Like there's more you could definitely get out of this, and especially on the almost forgot, the West Trenton line also has something nearly as stupid. Actually, probably just as stupid. So 15 minutes up the Glenside Combined to Jenkintown, and then 30 minutes up the West Trenton line. Okay, so you're making good progress here. Half hour to Neshaminy Falls? Huh? What about Langhorne? What about Woodburn? What about Yardley? Don't they get a lot of ridership? In fact, okay, so they don't think that they will. They don't think that they will. Like, but this just on the one hand, like, again with Neshaminy, if I go back to Open Railway Map, let's see what they got here. So let's say we start out here at Jenkintown. This is where the West Trenton line, or the Neshaminy line as they call it, that's what the Reading Company used to call it. Like Noble, Rydal, Meadowbrook, Beth Ayres, Philmont, Forest Hills, Somerton, Trevose, Neshaminy Falls. This is where CSX joins the picture. This is where we have to deal with freight trains. In a way, kind of. Technically, they are on separate tracks from each other. So the Trenton Sub, which is CSX's main line, basically from Florida all the way up to Newark, New Jersey, It joins up here just past Neshaminy Falls. And technically, you can short-turn... Like, this is not so much a technical problem at Neshaminy, because you can short-turn a train there. But the problem with the West Trenton line is that CSX track that's joined up here. It's separate from everything else, but it's on the same right-of-way. And it leads to a situation like at Langhorne here, where you have a platform on one side of the track. And if you're coming in, like say you're on track 2 here, the train stops, the doors open on this side. There's wooden like boards that you have to walk on to get to the platform here, because there used to be a platform here. There isn't anymore. You cannot get off the train on track 2 and get on an actual platform. That's not a joke. And like, I get it that this line is a vital piece of freight infrastructure. I totally get it. The thing that always bugs me about this one particularly is that when Langhorne Station was rebuilt, so a key thing to remember here, it's triple track now. When the Reading Company ran it up until like they trimmed it down, it was quad tracked. This was a quadruple track main line. Like, and when they, I believe when they rebuilt Langhorne Station, they put the platform where the 4th track used to be. I remember CSX when I was in Langhorne. Yeah, I've gone up to Langhorne to film a few times, and yeah, I see CSX there pretty regularly. It's a pretty busy freight corridor. So, like I get why they did it the way they did, because they had to do it the El Cheapo route. But the way they did it was that they didn't make it a high-level platform. They did not make a sort of rebuilt station a high-level platform. They have ramps, but what the hell good is that going to be when you come in on track 2 and there's no ramp that can like stretch all the way across track 1 to get to your train? And that's not just at Langhorne either, by the way. Woodbourne, which is up this way, Woodbourne Station is, I think I passed it there. It's like, yeah, it's right here. So Woodbourne Station has the same problem, but I'd argue a bit worse because it's on a curve. There is a ramp, I believe, at Woodbourne Station, but again, same problem as Langhorne. You can't use that ramp on the other track. You can't get a person out of a wheelchair at Woodbourne Station coming back. So, like, unless you... I think they do have, like, a lift or something, but... brother, is that going to cause problems. And again, this part was quad-tracked. I think it was quad-tracked, like, all the way up to Yardley. Then they had to double-track it for the bridge over the Delaware. Like, oh my god. Like, this is one of the things you gotta fix if you want to make the West Trenton line truly great. Woodbourne's great to film at. I do agree there, Jessica. Oh my god. Like, so Woodbourne bad station. Great foaming spot, though. Fantastic foaming spot. The one station beyond the Chamonix that could be understandable is Yardley. Yardley Station is double track. So Yardley Station has double track here, and it's only got the platform on one side because the track on the left this track here is SEPTA. This track is CSX. So you have you have that sort of arrangement. I can understand that, and the same is true at West Trenton itself in Ewing Township. So again, you have the single track here. You have this platform, which is pretty derelict, honestly. Like, West Trenton, the station building there is beautiful. It's a beautiful old Reading Company building, but, brother, is it just gone to pot. So, that's, like, that just shows, like, it seems like such a simple fix. And if this And if the arrangements of like the way the railroads and the way the transit agencies are run were in any way geared so that they could collaborate with each other effectively, this would not be a problem. This would be fixed properly, but it's not. It's just not. Like, yeah, Yardley used to have 2 platforms back in the Reading years, crossovers just before West Trenton. Yeah, so, yeah, that was kind of the sacrifice I think they had to make when they had to share track between SEPTA and CSX. That was kind of the sacrifice they had to make there. Woodbourne has major problems with CSX causing traffic jams. Yes, I can confirm, having seen CSX trains like blocking crossings, like, oh my God. Like the West Trenton line is a mess here, but this is not insurmountable either. This is something that if you just worked out a plan with like SEPTA, PennDOT, and CSX, you can maybe even like double CSX's capacity and improve SEPTA's capacity so that, where's my tab for it? This one here. So this doesn't even need to be considered. Like short turning it into Chamonix for the half-hourly trains and then hourly beyond. Like that should not be a consideration. And again, it just screams to me that SEPTA are working at this with no major changes to the status quo elsewhere in mind, which I totally understand. Don't get me wrong. I understand this. I really do. And when you're coming at it from an official angle, especially with the situation that SEPTA finds itself in, you have to accept the realities you work with. You play the cards you're dealt. But at the same time, there is scope for improvement here and giving a vision of what can be done if you had like big changes thought out, like big changes to infrastructure, changes to like how services could work, that sort of thing. If you gave people, and just as importantly, the politicians, a vision of what that could look like people could probably well jump on board with that sort of thing. No pun intended. Like they would take that idea and run with it. They would love it. Because I say every time I talk about SEPTA, every time I think about SEPTA, is that it could be one of the greats in the world. It could be one of the greatest transport systems in the world, one of the greatest transit agencies out there, if only they didn't get in their own way. So going back to the presentation here, and it's all the more annoying when you consider the time frames that they're working with here. So let's see. Implementation will take many phases over several decades. Decades to do this. Which frankly does not require that much investment in heavy infrastructure. The main thing would be getting new trains. Obviously, that's, like I said before, that's going to take up to like 5 years, maybe 7 once they, 5 years once they sign the contract with the builder. But this is just, this sort of stuff should be done in 10 tops. The main holdup here would be getting new trains, and I think they would need to invest a little bit in some of the infrastructure here. The obvious one to me, yeah, I agree, Jessica. I call foul. You don't need decades. You just need a few years. The only thing I think that really would need to get done is around where my mouse is. If you don't know where that is near Penn Medicine Station. It's one of my least favorite bottlenecks on the Northeast Corridor. Arsenal interlocking. So the problem with Arsenal, that I think this would be like the main thing they need to do. At Arsenal interlocking, so this is the Media Wawa line going off to Media. You got the line going into Center City, the Northeast Corridor, and you've got CSX up on the High Line, and then you got the Airport Line and the Wilmington Newark Line. They really need to fix the junction interlocking in Center City. That's exactly it. And especially since they want to run 15-minute frequency on the airport line and 30-minute frequency on Wilmington Newark. Like, the main thing you would need to do, in my estimation, is grade separate Arsenal and like grade separate this part here, because what SEPTA trains have to do now, like coming up the Wilmington Newark line, the airport line trains don't typically do this. They use the so there's this this flyover here near Elmwood, near Elmwood Avenue here. So you got this flyover just past the bridge where the CSX trackage goes. So flies over here. There is this track here which joins to the inbound lines, but that's usually just used as an emergency track. It's one of the Achilles heels of the NEC, Dante. It's one of them. I'd argue that shell interlocking up in New Rochelle, New York is worse, but this one's pretty bad, like really bad. So they have this escape track here that they rarely ever use. And then the reason why they rarely ever use it is like they have 5 tracks here on this part of the line. The airport line trains can run bidirectional on the left-hand side here, but the Wilmington Newark trains can't. Once you get so like the last station before Center City is Darby. So you can, after Darby, you run along track 1 here, and you have to get across all 4 main tracks of the Northeast Corridor. And you have to do it like one track at a time. You have to go like, and then over onto the airport line tracks. And then you get to Center City. And even then, you can still get held up by Media Wawa line trains. So this is a massive bottleneck, particularly for the Wilmington Newark line, because especially since Amtrak trains get priority. I've been on a Wilmington Newark line train where I had to wait for like 10 minutes to wait for an Amtrak train to pass and then cross over. And then there was another instance I was in where even after we crossed over, this was a separate time, but after we crossed over all 4 tracks of the Northeast Corridor, we had to wait for another 5 minutes for something else. I want to say it was a Media Wawa train, but I don't think like it could have been, but I'm not sure. That's why I went so slow there. Yes, exactly, Sammy. It's a major bottleneck. The thing you really got to do is grade separate. You got to grade separate. Slide 76 on RMP State of the System has good visuals on this. I'll definitely check that out. Thanks. So yeah, you definitely need to grade separate really just one track of this line to jump over the Northeast Corridor and get to the SEPTA lines. That is going to unlock a lot of extra capacity just through a reliability improvement. Just through that. Thanks for putting that content discussion. For those who don't know, I have a Discord server where I chat about things, like people can talk about my videos, talk about like transit issues, talk about like a lot of cool stuff. So, and there's a lot of cool people in there. Definitely check it out. Like, I have a friend in Norwood that is my most used station on that line. Yeah, like Norwood. I like Norwood better than a lot of other stations on the Wilmington Newark line. I think Prospect Park may be my favorite of all the ones in Pennsylvania anyway. Prospect Park's my favorite because it's still got that classic station building. It's still kind of funny where if you stand at Prospect Park and you look northbound, you can see 5 stations in the same line of sight. You see Prospect Park, Norwood, Glen Olden, Folcroft, and Sharon Hill. They're all there on that straight line there. It's always kind of hilarious to me that the stations are so close together. Like, I look at Prospect Park and Norwood. So, like, literally 3 blocks, 3 suburban blocks, but still 3 blocks distance between Prospect Park and Norwood. That's how close those stations are. It's still kind of funny to me. But yeah, this is the main thing they would probably have to do. There is another bottleneck that probably does need to be addressed also, and that's 16th Street. 16th Street Junction is where the Manioc Norristown line is near North Philadelphia. It's in North Philadelphia. It's near North Philadelphia Station. It goes past North Broad Station. But this junction is where the Manioc Norristown line, the outbound Manioc Norristown line trains, also have to cross over all 4 tracks of the SEPTA main line to get up to the Norristown line. And that's also a big bottleneck in its own right. It's probably as bad, if not worse, than Arsenal. So that's one that they definitely should try to address it, but that one's going to be a lot harder, especially since it's in a really built-up area. It's probably going to be more expensive to do, whereas with Arsenal, you got more room to work with. It's like this one should be looked at, and especially since you got like a lot of lines jumping over each other, jumping under and over each other. It's kind of a jumbled mess, but it should be looked at, I think, as like a bottleneck fix. 16th Street and Wayne Junction. Wayne Junction has the worst of them all. I definitely can see that. Yeah, like Wayne Junction is a bad bottleneck. Like if we look up here. So we got Roberts Yard and we got Wayne Electric Depot. So not only do you have like trains coming in and off the Chestnut Hill West line, because to get to Chestnut Hill East, I should say, because to get to Chestnut Hill East, you have to again cross all 4 tracks of the SEPTA main line to get to the platforms at Wayne Junction and then up to Chestnut Hill East. And that's not helped by works trains and shunting moves from Wayne Electric Depot and from Roberts Yard. So you got like a lot of non-revenue trains to deal with here. SEPTA has invested more money in their former Reading lines than the Pennsylvania Railroad lines. Yeah, definitely. That's largely because the ex-Pennsy lines, a lot of them are owned by Amtrak, so it's easier to invest in the lines that SEPTA actually owns. Because you have to work with Amtrak here, and it's something I'm going to talk about. It's something I'm going to be talking about in a future video, is that it's not just Amtrak and the commuter rail agencies, but transit agencies in general. Hear a motorcycle outside. But for whatever reason, they cannot work together. Almost none of them can work together. They have like this allergy of working together here. That's also true. The Pennsy routes were more well-defined and defined and polished there. It's actually something I also brought up in my Denmark versus SEPTA video, where the ex-Reading side was never built to the same capacity as the Pennsylvania Railroad side. The Pennsy lines had more traffic on them in the first place way back in the day, so they were built with higher capacity. And the Reading lines used to have that, but they were kind of trimmed back, especially during the cost-cutting years. Media Wawa's the only ex-Pennsy line owned by SEPTA. Well, Chestnut Hill West, at least the trackage that's not the Northeast Corridor, that's owned by SEPTA, if I recall right. They of course use the overhead power from Amtrak. Like the entire ex-Pennsy side of the network is powered by Amtrak substations. The ex-Reading side has SEPTA's own power stations, so that's good on their part. So, but in all seriousness, 3 bottlenecks, even just one, that should be what you need to fix here. You don't need to do anything like super fancy. You don't need to chuck money in anything super expensive there. You can fix like one junction, arguably definitely 3 should be looked at, but at least one, which I'd argue is Arsenal, because that's the easiest one too. Even Wayne Junction could be a bit tricky. But seriously, fix these 3. It would only take like maybe 5 years to fix all that. Like 5, maybe 10 at latest if you're using like entirely nighttime closures, which you shouldn't, because that's silly. Because SEPTA's no stranger to line closures. I remember a couple of years ago, the Media Wawa line was closed down, was turned into a shuttle from Wawa to 49th Street, just so they could fix up Arsenal interlocking, funnily enough. They were fixing up the trackage between like 49th, Penn Medicine, and 30th Street on that line. So they're obviously no stranger to it. Like, and this is the kind of stuff where I remember seeing like these videos from Australia, particularly like Australia and Britain, where Australia and Britain, where I think it was with Perth, actually, Perth, Australia, where when they were electrifying their lines, they had to rebuild a particular section of the line that was a big bottleneck and build a new station. The track work was completed in one weekend. The big heavy track work was done in one weekend, and it was ready for the first train of the weekday. That's probably not the same. Like, you probably can't get this done that quickly, but it can be done quicker than a few years with, especially if you don't do it with nighttime closures. It was a nightmare. It was needed to fix the dilapidated viaduct. Yeah, the Railworks project in 1992. Like, that was like priority number one here, and that's why like SEPTA couldn't invest in almost anything else, because they had to fix that. So yeah, that was a mess. So, but it would only take a few years, not to freaking 2055. Like, really? Like, wow. Like, really, people. Like, this is, like, this is just, yeah, this should not take 30 years. Like, no country that has their act together does this in 30 years. This is done in 3 years. This should be part of a 5-year plan. It really should be part of a 5-year plan, because you're not building anything new here. You're not building new rights of way. You're not opening new lines. You're just fixing stuff and getting new trains. Like, it's like when RTD claimed they were going to get trains to Boulder, Colorado by like 2070. Oh, Colorado. I respect you have a homegrown electrified commuter rail network now running Silverliner 5s, funnily enough, but saving this live stream so we can watch it later. Yes, I'm saving this. I'm definitely saving this. So, the people at SEPTA think we're going to live to be 300 years old. I mean, you never know what medical technology could bring. Oh my God, though. But like, this is obviously an agency that's like, they obviously don't have the in-house capacity to do this. Not many transit agencies do in the U.S. That's the thing. But that gets to the root of the problem. There needs to be a actual framework to build around here. So there's a great book I've been reading, actually. I think I... did I bring it up here? I think I left it downstairs. But there's a great book that I've been reading. Gareth Dennis's How the Railways Will Fix the Future. And basically it's like it all comes back to structure and incentives. Like right now, like our structure, it barely exists. Like in the U.S., it barely bloody exists, and let alone at a state level. And really, and I agree with Gareth here that a regional level, like in the U.S., it would be a state level. That's the best place to organize a lot of transport systems. I look at Pennsylvania. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to be talking about down the line where something like a state transit or rail authority would be the place to start building that incentive structure. SEPTA is building the foundation for the network by providing more service based on demand and align with RRMP early actions. That's the Regional Rail Master Plan. So this is like talking about the stuff they want to do. 60-minute all-day service to Chestnut Hill West and East. This is like the early actions. 16-minute max to Wilmington. So that's basically extend all trains from Marcus Hook to Wilmington. 60-minute service all day to Wawa. Most of this stuff is like stuff that would only take like really a wave of the hand essentially for them to do, and they would be better off for it. Okay, so regional rail master plan. So the directions, guideposts, but okay, so this actually gets to the point we were talking about earlier. The regional rail master plan, the North Star they call it. It's direction, guideposts, but no roadmap. What is it for? Sketch level modeling tool that enables iterative process for testing options in quick succession. And actually, look at the example they're using here. It's arsenal interlocking. They're actually using this as an example of one of the things to like focus on. So like I definitely respect what they want to do here. Some of the stuff that obviously that I brought up here is kind of ridiculous, but they have this they at least have this so they can single out projects to do this on. The timelines though are insane. If Seattle can build a full-fledged light rail network in less time, you know something's not right. At the state level, something is not right. SEPTA partnered with Deutsche Bahn. Well, I say that, but like DB's been hamstrung by the German government because you believe it or not, the German government has been insanely car-brained the last few administrations. So I don't blame Deutsche Bahn for that. So they partnered with DB to conduct a railroad addressable market assessment and understanding in 2019 and 2024 travel changes and applying findings to our near-term service plans. So this is like weekday trip starts per hour and on Saturdays. So system, let's see, how does addressable markets compare with SEPTA service levels? So it's trips per hour and daily trains per hour. So system-wide service proportion is less than the addressable market trips start proportion in the midday hours. So SEPTA Regional Rail Service is currently capturing between 3 and 12% of the addressable market trips per weekday. Paley-Thorndale line stands on... Paley-Thorndale is the highest at 12. Oh yeah, my face is on top of the PDF file. Sorry about that. I'll move that there for now. Okay, so Paley-Thorndale stands out as the highest at 12%. Other lines range between 3 and 6, which is at or below estimates for capture rates per the Future of Commuter Rail in North America. Capture rates generally higher. So, based on weekend findings, SEPTA could consider adding more service, 30 minutes to Paoli, beyond the current hourly service, depending on availability, crews, equipment, and operating budget. And that's... that to me also brings up a segue about like what SEPTA needs to do, and that's getting new trains. Because the way that SEPTA's trains are set up now, the Silverliner IVs particularly, is that they're built for like old-fashioned service. I mean, they're from the 1970s, and they haven't had a refit program in their entire lives, at least not a major refit. So getting new trains would be a key to enable like better crew availability, better equipment usage, and a cheaper operating budget, because you're not spending as much money on trains being taken out of service. Market rates. How does the addressable market compare with Media Line service? So let's see. Media Wawa Line trains addressable market trips. Oh my God, it's less than 1%. What the hell? Oh boy. Based on weekday findings, SEPTA could consider adding more service all day. The addressable market is much higher than Paoli. That really says a lot. If the market that you can capture is higher than the Paoli-Thorndale line, that makes sense why they would want to make it 15 minutes all the way out to Wawa. So, yeah, like there is so much being left on the table, and I know some people clown on this guy, but like I take a page out of what Alon Levy has said, like once or twice about the Northeast Corridor in their case. But for me, like this, it's not just that there's low hanging fruit here, but 2/3 of the fruit are low hanging, for God's sake. And like that's a whole, and how you make people realize that, yeah, like the fruit is pretty low hanging. You don't need the neck of a giraffe to reach them. Strong increases and significant increases throughout the day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and with 2 exceptions at 12 a.m. and noon. So this is talking about ridership, and of course you're talking about the fiscal cliff. This was published I think this was published like just before the solution, like the short-term solution came to be. So yeah, so like they had to put that up there. So right now that's not a concern at the moment. It's going to be a concern in 2 years if they can't get something happening here. And considering the state still has not passed the budget, apparently from what I've seen, a good chunk of it is Republican infighting in the Senate, and like that's something that hasn't been discussed as much. The Republicans can't agree amongst themselves about what they want to get out of the budget. So. And I think that's still a problem now. Like unless they, like something needs to be called, A, to get a budget in general, and B, to get it for transit. Because this is not just a transit issue. Everything in the entire state does not have a budget yet. Yeah, so... Okay, so they actually did mention it. Governor allowed SEPTA to utilize about $400 million in capital funds to fill operating budget for fiscal year 26 and 27, which allowed SEPTA to reverse the service cuts. This action will cause the deferral of capital projects. It has caused some of them to be deferred. Mainly station rebuilds was a couple of things deferred, and also not buying new buses. But the ones that have contracts laid out, like the trolleys and the new cars on the L, those are fine. Those ones have not been affected. They have the money for that. It was already earmarked. It's already allocated. And that has not changed. In the next 2 years, SEPTA will be utilizing information in the addressable market report to optimize service plans and grow ridership and revenue. Because I think that's one thing that has been kind of missed, is that like ridership demand is big and it has not been addressed. So, So that was the end of that presentation. Yeah, thank goodness new cars on the L are coming. Like the M4s, they have not aged well. Like I'd say they're pieces of junk, like overall. So that in turn leads us to what the state is thinking rather than just SEPTA. Pennsylvania State Rail Plan, September 2025. And I've had to look through this, just going through the appendices, the acronyms, abbreviations. And it's kind of it really just shows just how much of a non-plan that people have. And I think it shows just how different the thought process that a transit advocate like I would have, where like you have these what would be considered like grandiose ideas. I'm gonna open a soda real quick. Yep. Yeah, it was Dr. Pepper. I like Dr. Pepper. But it shows just how different our thought process is, where we have these ideas that say like big changes to the structure of your transit system and of how things work, and like getting these big service improvements, versus like what a state is doing, which is like small projects that kind of nip around the edges of issues within the system. So let's start. The role of rail in statewide transportation. PennDOT produced his last federally mandated state rail plan in 2020. The plan established the vision for freight and passenger rail transport in the Commonwealth. The 2020 state rail plan was prepared between fall 2019 and fall 2020 as COVID struck the world. To the extent possible at the time, the plan identified and anticipated short and long-term impacts of COVID on freight and passenger rail transport and rail traffic patterns. The timing of the plan, however, did not allow for a detailed analysis of these potential impacts on freight and passenger rail. Much has occurred that affects both freight and passenger transportation since the publication of the 2020 plan. COVID came under control, but the impacts lingered. While population mobility constraints of the COVID period have ended, some new travel patterns remain. The movement of freight has likewise been affected as supply chains were disrupted. Government energy policies and competitive energy sources continued the decline in coal transportation. These and other drivers of change in rail transportation shape this plan. On the positive side, long-needed federal funding for freight and passenger rail transportation improvements became available with the passage of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act of 2021, the IIJA. Passenger rail network expansion became a priority of the federal government. Funding for freight rail infrastructure improvements were expanded well above historic levels. Safety has taken on a new priority following the February 2023 East Palestine derailment, with 9 safety-related legislative bills introduced across the U.S. House and Senate. This included the Railway Safety Act, reintroduced in 2025, which would mandate new safety regulations for rail carriers and trains transporting hazardous materials. The 2025 State Rail Plan serves as a guide for the advancement of the Pennsylvania freight and passenger rail system. It describes the rail development activity since the 2020 Rail Plan and provides information to support further investment in the rail system. The State Rail Plan update provides a current assessment of the state's rail needs, along with recommendations for policies, programs, processes, and projects to improve rail safety and service, and serves as a practical roadmap for future investment in transportation policies. And it's also this is also a key thing to note as well. This is also a key thing, and this is a key thing here, is been prepared by PennDOT to meet the requirements of the Passenger Rail Investment and Improvement Act of 2008, as well as the subsequent Federal Railroad Administration State Rail Plan guidance. While the primary purpose of the PRIA is to provide for improved passenger service in the U.S., the Act required each state to have an approved rail plan as a condition for receiving future rail funding. So this is kind of a checklist sort of plan, essentially, so that the state government can get funding for rail projects that they want to get done. So, and I also note, this is a draft plan. This has not been approved just yet, but it's a draft of it. And this is like Pennsylvania's goals for transportation systems. So like as part of the 2045 Pennsylvania Long Range Transport Plan. Analysis of rail's role. Rail plays an important role in Pennsylvania's freight system. Freight networks are critically important to the supply chain that moves both essential raw materials and finished goods, and is a key economic driver in the Commonwealth. Pennsylvania ranks among the nation's top states for a range of metrics of rail activity, including a number of freight railroads, miles of rail, volume of goods moved, and rail employment. This section highlights the various commodities moved by rail in Pennsylvania and describes the overall modal share of rail, which has been assessed using the Federal Highway Administration Freight Analysis Framework. In general, rail is used to ship products over longer distances, although rail's modal share of tonnage hauled to, from, and within Pennsylvania is 8% of freight tonnage shipped by all modes. Rail is a key modal option for specific shippers hauling certain commodities. Rail tends to be used to transport heavy, dense commodities with low value per ton. So, coal and ores, essentially. So that's basically what it is. It's like coal and ore traffic are mainly, concept of a plan indeed. I agree there, Sammy. I got concepts of a plan. Like, for me, though, I want to create an actual plan. Having a look at like a lot of different. This is mostly about freight, that sort of stuff. I know there's a section for passenger. I want to get to that for sure. But one thing that that has kind of changed, I'm pretty sure I'll get to that, is that here we are. Regional rail authorities is these guys. 3 major public regional rail authorities operate in Pennsylvania, and this actually does not include SEPTA. That's in a different section. The Pennsylvania General Assembly's Municipal Authorities Act of 1945 enables the establishment of authorities, including those focusing on transportation, with the purpose and intent to benefit the people of the Commonwealth by, among other things, increasing their commerce, health, safety, and prosperity. Municipalities and countries can create authorities that are authorized to construct, improve, maintain, and operate rail projects, to borrow money and issue bonds, to develop revenue streams to repay the bonds, and enter into contracts and accept grants from the federal government. They are the Susquehanna Economic Development Association Council of Governments Joint Rail Authority. Snappy name, I'm sure. They own 5 short line railroads consisting of 220 miles. Freight service to over 100 customers is provided under contract by a private operator. That's the Delaware-Lackawanna Railroad, which I have seen. They just recently they're recently just handing off to the private sector now, because apparently this was just to JRA serves Center, Clinton, Columbia, Lycoming, Mifflin, Montour, Northumberland, Snyder, and Union counties. Formed in 1983 in pursuit of public ownership of rail lines that Conrail had decided to abandon. So that was that is the Delaware-Lackawanna Railroad. Not to be confused with the old Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western. So that one was created basically to save lines that Conrail was abandoning in the 80s, because that was kind of Conrail's modus operandi. They basically created PSR as we think of it. So you have that. But now they're handing that off to the private sector. Apparently, they think that there is no need to keep it propped up, so they're moving that to a private entity. There's the Pennsylvania Northeast Regional Rail Authority, founded in 2006, and provides 100 miles of rail for freight and passenger excursions south from Carbon to Scranton and east to East Stroudsburg and the Delaware Water Gap. Previously, Monroe and Lackawanna counties had separate rail commissions. Rail freight services are provided by the private operator, the Delaware-Lackawanna Railroad Company. Okay, so I was wrong. This one is Delaware-Lackawanna. This one, I forget who it was. Someone knows that. What does Open Railway Map have to say? So that is... it's like out here in like north central PA, thereabouts. I know there's like a Genesee and Wyoming company out there that runs like freight services out here. I think it was the Buffalo and Pittsburgh. So you have that. I'm not a big fan of Genesee and Wyoming in general. They're just like they're called the Orange Borg for a reason. So rail freight services are provided by the Delaware-Lackawanna Railroad Company under contract with the PNRRA, which owns the rail assets and property. So the authority owns the track. Delaware-Lackawanna runs the trains. Kind of an arrangement that I'm kind of a fan of. I like that idea. PNRRA currently serves about 25 active rail industries. The PNRRA is the sponsor of the Pennsylvania portion of a project to restore passenger rail commuter service between Scranton and New York City in partnership with New Jersey Transit. So yeah, those are the guys that are working on the Amtrak service from New York to Scranton on the old Lackawanna cutoff, and also New Jersey Transit is involved in that one. They're going to be extending the Morris and Essex line out to Andover. It's under a PennDOT grant from the FRA to develop a service development plan for the corridor under the Corridor ID program. So that is like those are the guys doing the heavy lifting for the return to Scranton for Amtrak. And then my favorite one of them, these guys, the Schuylkill River Passenger Rail Authority, which so I've been up to Reading a few times to foam Reading 2102 on its runs. And I've seen at least 3, and there's probably more. There's 3 billboards along the highways for these guys, for the SRPRA. They have actual billboards along the roads. I love that. That shows how serious that's being taken, and like Reading needs that. Reading like that. Bring that service back ASAP. I want to see that happen so badly. It's so cool. It's so cool to see that they actually it's so cool that they're really taking it that seriously, and they have like a good media campaign for it. And J riders need to pay a $10 toll for the luxury of leaving New Jersey. My line on Norfolk Southern Harrisburg line. Yep. Yeah, and I love that you actually have billboards, which more like that needs to be more of a thing, and they need to be actually good. SEPTA has billboards that I've seen, especially on like I-95, but they're just mediocre. They just suck. Like, oh my god. And then the transit agencies. As per federal guidance on state rail plans for passenger service, only commuter or regional rail service is considered. Two agencies operate commuter rail service in Pennsylvania, SEPTA and NJT. SEPTA is the primary provider of public transportation in the Philadelphia region, operating rapid transit, light rail, bus, and commuter rail called regional rail service. It's like compared to like, hold on, what is going on? Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just checking something here. Okay, so sorry about that. So SEPTA is primary provider of public transport in Philly. And two of the lines terminate in New Jersey at Trenton and West Trenton, and one line terminates in Newark, Delaware, while the remaining routes are entirely within Pennsylvania. As per the April 2022 State of the System and Peer System Review document by SEPTA, the 13 lines include 155 stations and 280 one-way track miles and carry 132,000 riders a day pre-COVID. Yeah, hi SEPTA Philly. Oh, salute de la Transylvania, Romania. Oh, someone from Romania here? That's cool. Welcome. NJ Transit operates 10 commuter rail lines. Of these, one, the Atlantic City line, enters Pennsylvania, terminating at 30th Street Station in Philly, is the only Pennsylvania station served. SEPTA's Trenton line and NJ Transit also interchange at Trenton Transit Center in Trenton, New Jersey. And then you got like the Port of Philadelphia, Port of Pittsburgh, Port of Erie, and a bunch of P3s, private-public partnerships, incentives. So let's have a look here. Nice use of the East Penn Railroad in that picture, by the way. Pennsylvania has advanced several important rail improvement initiatives since the last state rail plan, some of which are ongoing and some of which are complete. These include freight rail initiatives, passenger rail and passenger technology initiatives, passenger rail initiatives, and safety initiatives. Freight rail, ongoing programs that are primary mechanisms to which PennDOT supports freight rail improvements in the Commonwealth. Summarize. During this time, PennDOT is awarded $172 million across both of these programs, RFAP and RTAP. These include rehabilitation or replacement of existing track and/or ties, the creation of new track and/or ties, increasing track storage capability by adding or extending rail sidings, replacement and repair of bridges and culverts, and rehab of at-grade crossings, and construction and installation of unloading equipment. So, like, upkeep work and minor improvements, really, because that's apparently what they use capital money for. It's rehabilitated over 300 miles of track on short line and regional railroads, constructed over 5.5 miles of new track, mostly to provide access to freight shippers. Like, over 5.5 miles of new track. Whoop-de-doo. Like, man. Let's see. Rehabilitated at least 31 highway rail grade crossings. Constructed or improved at least 12 loading and unloading facilities. Rehabilitated at least 32 bridges. That's good. Installed at least 37 new turnouts, and replaced 76,765 ties, including only those projects focusing specifically on tie rehab rather than rail line rehab. And let's see, PennDOT and other public sector agencies have also supported freight rail in PA by sponsoring and in some cases providing matching funds for federal discretionary grants. To illustrate one example of federal multimodal discretionary grant programs, several Commonwealth projects were awarded grants under the U.S. CRISI program. McKean County won a grant to rehab 4 bridges on the western New York and Pennsylvania line. PennDOT, as applicant with its partners, won a grant to develop an innovative rail car telematics technology platform, RailPulse. Yeah, and PennDOT won a grant to support state of good repair track improvements and grade crossing upgrades across 220 track miles of the Buffalo and Pittsburgh. That's that Genesee and Wyoming subsidiary. Yeah. Rail technology initiatives. PennDOT played a leading role in submitting successful CRISI grant applications for up to $7.9 million in FRA funding for Rail Pulse, an innovative railcar telematics technology platform that will support rail shipping by providing essential shipment visibility to customers by tracking location, condition, and health. A joint venture between the FRA, Norfolk Southern, and 10 major North American railcar owners. So basically, it's a way of keeping track of railcars. That's good. You don't want a Penn Central scenario where you just have ghost trains and you don't know where the hell your rail cars are. But now we get to the stuff I really want to talk about. Passenger rail initiatives. Here we go. PennDOT has been actively supporting intercity passenger rail initiatives, while SEPTA has been supporting regional passenger rail projects. Well, as best as they possibly can. See you, Dante. Great to see you around. Shows the major intercity passenger rail initiatives underway in the Commonwealth, which are detailed in the following pages. So this, see if I can zoom in a bit here, make it look a bit better. So you got Philly to Harrisburg, that's the Keystone Corridor, and then squiggling through the mountains to Pittsburgh. And then you got the proposed line to Scranton, you got the proposed line to Reading, and then you got the proposed Pittsburgh to Chicago via Columbus, Ohio, and Fort Wayne, Indiana. You notice a lot of things are missing here. They also don't mention the Lakeshore Limited to Erie. That sounds like willful disrespect to the Lakeshore Limited. But there is a lot of things missing. There's a lot of scope for improvement here, folks. Don't get me wrong. This sort of stuff is good. Like Scranton needs trains. Reading needs trains. Pittsburgh needs more trains. Philly needs more trains. But like, what about everywhere else? Freaking Allentown, Pennsylvania's third biggest city. No trains. Pennsylvania's Central PA seriously needs some passenger rail, and they used to. Like, oh my, this is the kind of thing I'm getting at here. Is like what they see as a plan is like as a checklist thing to say that, hey, we are doing things to improve rail. You know, like steady improvements, but improvements nonetheless. And don't get me wrong, improvements are good. They are good, but this ain't a plan. This isn't a strategy. This is just things that you are doing. This is just a few things that needed to be done anyway, but you are doing. This is not what you want to see. This is not your North Star. This is worse than what SEPTA is doing. SEPTA at least has a vision for what they want with their regional rail network. The state government of Pennsylvania as a whole doesn't. There is no vision. It's just things to do, things to fix. Sammy, you actually make a good point here. Like, look at this map here, and look at this map. This is Pennsylvania. Look at all of these lines. Like, orange is main lines, yellow is branch lines. Look at all of this. These are lines that already exist. They're already being used for freight traffic too. Like, wish people would commit to supporting small towns and just have stations on, even if it's twice a day. Exactly, even if it's twice a day. Even if it's twice a day, that would be fantastic. It'd be a good place to start. They can include a line from Harrisburg to Scranton. You're exactly right. Here's Harrisburg. You go up the Susquehanna, up to Sunbury, up the river still to Wilkes-Barre, and there's Scranton. It's right there on NS trackage. I'm sure you have to deal with NS and their BS. Hey, that kind of rhymes. But yeah, like, it's there. It's freaking there. And I know you got like these agreements to work with here, but do what Virginia's doing. Do what Virginia's doing and buy up rights of way. Buy them up and use that to expand capacity for both passenger and for freight. Look at what, like, we have an example of it working in the U.S. It's freaking Virginia. and North Carolina, and California to a lesser extent, and of course, like Jersey and Connecticut, but that's a whole different thing. I love to grab a train ride to Bradford. Yes, like I'd like to ride a train to Puxatawney, honestly. Like, I want to see Puxatawney fill by train. That'd be great. And like, look, Puxatawney, I don't know if like the grounds where they do like the Groundhog Day thing, I don't know if they're that close to downtown Puxatawney in general, but look, the line goes right through town. Look at that. That would be great. That would be great. Like a great Pennsylvania tradition accessible by train. Virginia mentioned, indeed. We're cooking right now. Like, I like what Virginia's doing. And the great thing about Virginia's idea, it's been bipartisan. Democrat governors, Republican governors, Democrat and Republican legislatures, they have been really getting in on this. Like, I remember when Youngkin became governor, I became kind of worried about that, but no. Like, Youngkin's kind of stuck with it. And that's the thing. You need to, if we're going to do this, you need to build something that includes, like it may sound weird to say, but include people from, like, more conservative viewpoints there. Because like, you're trying to expand service to these places that are generally more conservative politically. And you have to get them on board with this. Like, this is not us versus them. It's all of us versus entropy, if anything else. Like, it's bad overall because of Penn Central. But I can blame Penn Central for a lot of things. like Penn Central would be like the thing I always come back to as like where everything went to hell. So just stopping in Reading for Amtrak, and we'll continue west to Harrisburg, including Hershey. Yes, because again, you can do that. Like, you got the line, Harrisburg, out to Hershey, Lebanon, Reading, and then you want to go even further? Up past Kutztown and Marist, Allentown, and Bethlehem. And you can connect into the, if New Jersey Transit decides to extend the Raritan Valley line out to out from High Bridge to where was it? The town right on the border. Where is it? Phillipsburg. Out to Phillipsburg. You could connect to the New Jersey Transit, so you can get like essentially regional rail service from Harrisburg to New York City. Like, if you think the state had any kind of desire for interstate rail, providing any and funding for SEPTA might not be a hated idea. Agreed completely. You've got to get as many people as you can on board. No pun intended, but you can. Yeah, Phillipsburg, New Jersey. So, yeah, like, you need to get these people on board with this. And the great thing is, the tracks are there. And a lot of the old station buildings are there, too. Like, you go to a lot of, I remember being up around in the Poconos, filming Reading 2102, going through a lot of these small towns, filming the Steam Train, because Steam Train, awesome. There's a lot of really nice little train stations that are still there. I think my favorite one, besides Jim Thorpe, because obviously, is the one in Tamaqua, Pennsylvania. Really, really cute little town in the Poconos. And the train station building from the Reading Company days is still there. It's now a restaurant and a train station for the Reading and Northern. It's the pickup stop for Reading and Northern excursions. So you have that. Hazleton, I think, has one too. Like, you could go up to Scranton as well. They still have a station, obviously. But there's a bunch of, like, small train stations still left. And like, if I go out to Jim Thorpe, there's another station. I need to find, I think it's on this line here. Yes, Weatherly. There's a town, there's Weatherly, a little town called Weatherly. They have a little tiny train station that I drove by once or twice when I was filming up there. I want to stop by and take some pictures of that while I had the chance. I didn't have the chance to, but you have these little train stations still there. Like, it's a link to the past that turns into a link to the future at the same time. And I gotta say, like, if people in Weatherly, like, had a train service going between, like, Scranton to Allentown and they were able to catch it in either direction, they'd use it. branch line service with Stadler DMUs would go so hard. Yes, it would. Like, you get, like, I get some Stadler flirts or something, and that would just be a beautiful regional service. And there's a lot of places where that can work. And having a vision like that can be what gets not just Pennsylvania, but a lot of other states to really buy into expanding rail, to say that, hey, it's not just going to be for the city slickers, for the suburbanites. It's not just going to be for those people. It's going to be for us. It's going to be for small town and rural folk. It's going to be for everybody. Because, like, train good for everybody no matter where it goes. We need rail fans to use their brainpower to develop a plan that connects rural. Yes. Agreed there, question. We need rail fans to use their brainpower to develop a plan that connects rural and city life in PA. This will get bipartisan support, especially if there's a full plan made. I will get right on that. I'll definitely create a draft. State college, yes. State college would be, like, that would get so much traffic for Penn Staters. Like, and as a Penn State alumni, I wholeheartedly approve. Not that I'm biased. I'm not biased towards Penn State. Like all the other colleges, like I love that Temple has their own train station. I love that Penn obviously has their own. But like a lot of colleges, that would be great for them because like a lot of college students obviously don't have cars. Yeah, train good for everyone. I'm glad it's making you smile, Sammy. And here's the thing to consider here. This doesn't take like a Herculean effort to get started. Like the end game could be, but the start of it isn't, because I want to make one factoid clear here. The United States of America, in terms of raw track mileage, has the biggest rail network in the world, period. Bigger than India, bigger than China. It's the biggest in the world, and it's criminally underused. And it's there. Like, there's a lot that can be done with this. Imagine if Westchester still had the trolley at Westchester University. Pour one out to the 104. At least you got the 104 bus. That actually leads. That's actually something that could be interesting on my end. I'm not gonna go all out and say like what it's gonna be, but I've been making a few appearances at the at Westchester's Borough Council because they have the Rail Restoration Committee for restoring the Media Wawa line to Westchester. I've been making my appearance known there, and I actually was kind of a bit of an impromptu liaison, a bit of a go-between between those guys and the borough of media to like drum up support for the state to back the idea. So it's been fun, like really talking to those guys and seeing like what's going on here. I think their next meeting is next Wednesday, I believe. Yeah, it's next Wednesday. So yeah, we have that. Actually, I'm just getting my phone out here. Just want to be sure I got the right date. Oh yeah, I agree. The 104 bus is pretty solid. So Rail Restoration Committee. Let's bring up my. Calendar. So December 10th is the December one. So November 12th. So yeah, that's the next one I'm going out to. It's at Westchester's Borough Hall. Live in Hazleton. Train comes twice a day, just in time to work in the city, but live somewhere cheap enough to buy a small town. Gen Z would go insane for cost of living and access. Yes, exactly. That would be fantastic. 104 is okay, but it takes forever to get the 69. Yeah, because like Westchester Pike is cursed. Like that road is just like uber cursed. Like, oh my god. I mean, like my thought for Westchester Pike is
just one more lane,
but make that lane a trolley lane. or bus lane.
Just one more lane.
Yeah. The airport line's having a rough day. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What's happened with the airport line? Airport line, what is going on? Train, slippery rail. Train is canceled due to mechanical issues. Oh, boy, here we go. Like, oh, boy. Where's my soundbite? Where is it? No, I didn't add it. Shoot. Maybe this one will be 4 cancellations. Yeah, very much this soundbite.
Everyone at City Rail wants you and your family to travel by bus.
Ouch. Ouch, 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 ouch. So, yeah, BRT the 104. Good place to start. That'd be a good place to start. So, but anyway, let's get back to this. The Keystone Corridor. PennDOT supports 2 Amtrak services on the Keystone Corridor. Harrisburg service operates between New York and Harrisburg. PennDOT subsidizes the portion between Harrisburg and Philly. The Keystone service comprises 13 daily round trips, which is fine. It's certainly fine. The Pennsylvanian operates between New York and Pittsburgh. PennDOT subsidizes service between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh with 1 train per day in each direction. There are plans to add a second train to the Pennsylvanian service, which will include an investment by PennDOT of at least $250 million. PennDOT received a $143 million grant from the U.S. DOT's Federal State Partnership Grant Program. The goal is to initiate the new service in 2026, which is good because 1 train a day between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh is stupid. Thanks, NS. Yeah, 13 round trips is really good, especially for what's effectively an intercity train. Really good for American standards. And I like the Keystone service. It's annoying that it doesn't have a cafe car, but it's good. It's a usable service. It's really good. I genuinely have no qualms about it. Except maybe some of the tracks, like some of the bottlenecks in the line there. But other than that, good train. Service will be made possible through a collaborative effort between PennDOT, Amtrak, and Norfolk Southern. PennDOT has also improved stations on the Keystone Corridor between Philadelphia and Harrisburg, Keystone East. These improvements are summarized down here. Hello. So, Ardmore Station, construction of a new station building and high-level platforms, which I've seen them do. Work began in 2019 is anticipated to be complete in 2025. I think that just got delayed again to early 2026. Paoli. Hello, Paoli. Current phase called the North Valley Road Bridge Relocation Project. Again, really snappy name. Focuses on improving traffic flow for safety for motorists and pedestrians by reconfiguring the roadways surrounding the station. Expect to be complete in 2027, which is good because, like, I've driven to Paoli a few times, and that bridge over the tracks is just, ugh. Don't you mean Union Pacific? Do not bring that up. Do not bring that up. Though, the one good thing I'm seeing from it is that next year, we may have the railfan equivalent of DEFCON 1, Big Boy going around the horseshoe curve. That might actually be a thing that happens next year. The American freight rail industry is boned, but at least it's going to be cool to watch. Union Southern. Don't tell any neocons that. Yeah, it's not the best for pedestrians in Paoli. Like, I don't think the thing even has a sidewalk. Like, it's that bad. Whereas Norfolk Southern serves these days. What purpose NS serves? Make sure CSX doesn't have a monopoly, I guess. Or, especially after what happens in Ohio. Yeah, like, well, Doesn't matter to them. They're making money. And instead of making trains longer, make them taller. Yes. Maybe, like, could have been a good idea if we had a loading gauge the size of India's. It does, but not safe enough. Okay, then, yeah, like, so it exists, but why would you bother, essentially? Also because PSR, which, sadly, I can blame Comrail for. I hate that I can blame Comrail, but I can blame Comrail. Exton Station. Renovations were complete in 2020, including the construction of the American with ADA compliant station building on the south side of the tracks and a new passenger shelter on the north side of the tracks, completed in 2020. I was going to say, because that's an old one. Coatesville. Oh, looky. Coatesville Station got delayed. Estimated completion in 2026, which I definitely get, because I was out in Coatesville a couple of weeks ago. That station is nowhere near ready. It is not ready at all. Like, the eastbound platform looks good. The westbound platform does not exist. They're still building it. So, yeah, that makes sense. Exton's just a glorified park and ride. It pretty much is. Like, it's just surrounded by highways. The only reason it exists is some people around Exton, but mainly for people in Westchester who drive there after they lost the Westchester line. Yeah, who would have thunk it, huh? Lancaster. Improvements include increased parking, new lighting, stormwater management facilities, and accessible sidewalk improvements to provide better station access. A pedestrian bridge will be built, providing direct access from the new parking lot to the existing passenger bridge. Parking lot was finished in 2023. The pedestrian bridge completed in 2026. Nice. I mean, I've seen them moving along on that when I popped by Lancaster on the Keystone service once, so it's something. Middletown. Construction of a new station. Yeah, this was the rebuild of Middletown Station. It was finished in 2022. I like it. It looks good. Downingtown. Yeah, Downingtown. Wait. I just realized what that said at Downtown. Construction of a new ADA-compliant train station that will accommodate intercity and commuter rail service. So they're rebuilding Downingtown Station. Will begin in 2026. Okay. I hear you. You have my attention. Yeah, westernplatform.exe can't be installed. Please restart the computer to find source file. Yup. Yeah, you might find it in some of the diggers that they got in the parking lot of Coastal Station. Finish in 20... Maybe, yeah. Parksburg. The project will increase parking capacity and will make improvements to increase station access for motorists and pedestrians. The project will construct new high-level boarding platforms. Thank you. Thank you. Parksburg needed that. So that's pretty much going to be every station on the Keystone Corridor service is going to be accessible. The only ones that won't be are some SEPTA stations. Design ongoing in 2025, including design for high-level boarding, which began in 2024. And Harrisburg. Found it, but it's behind a damn paywall. Damn it. Yep. Harrisburg Transportation Center project replaces the station roofs and skylights, which are beyond their useful life, and improves public meeting space for visitors of the observation room. Completed in 2024. If that's indicative of what Harrisburg looks like now, that does not look right, because Harrisburg Station is in the middle of being rebuilt. Like, that station is not done being rebuilt right now. It's a mess of scaffolding at the moment. That station needs more work. I hope we stay on high-level platforms. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. In the words of Gareth Dennis, level boarding or death. Okay. Northeast Corridor. Several improvements are taking place on the NEC involving SEPTA and PennDOT and/or Amtrak. These include the following. Zoo interlocking improvement in Philadelphia. Yes. 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 Improvements to the interlocking where trains move between the NEC and the Keystone East Corridor. This will reduce train conflicts and improve the fluidity of the connection. Good, because it needs it. There is no reason why zoo interlocking is as slow as it is. Oh, man. Good. Jessica, they better not damage 4859. Yeah. I'm sorry, zoo interlocking. Yeah, zoo interlocking, because it's right next to the Philadelphia Zoo. Philadelphia 30th Street, improvements to the South Concourse and the South Office Tower. Cornwall's Heights Station project will include a new 600-foot high-level platform using a grant from U.S. DOT Federal State Partnership Program. New accessible pedestrian overpass with elevators. So this one I knew about for a few years now. This one was going back to at least like 2022, 2023-ish, where they got the money from. So that one is happening. So this is all good. It again, good improvements, but it's not like a big time plan. It's just things you got to do. Other planning initiatives, Corridor ID and Development Program. The IIJA required the establishment of the Corridor ID program to identify and prioritize passenger rail projects for future investment. Corridor ID may receive funding for the Service Development Plan, preliminary engineering, environmental phases of the project. PennDOT served as the primary applicant or co-applicant for the fiscal year 2022 FRA Corridor ID program grants highlighted below, which were selected in December 2023, which will each receive up to $500,000 towards passenger rail planning projects. Scranton to New York City. PennDOT and co-applicants PNRRA, that's one of the rail agencies I mentioned earlier, the ones that contract out to the Delaware-Lackawanna, and NJT proposed restoring rail service between Scranton, Pennsylvania, and New York City. The 140-mile corridor spans 60 miles across Pennsylvania, owned by the Pennsylvania Northeast Regional Rail Authority, and 80 miles in New Jersey, owned and operated by NJT. The remaining 20 miles of missing track is the property of NJDOT. In this where I post regular pictures of the progress and more. Nice. And yeah, exactly. Reading to Philly. The proposed project, sponsored by the SRPRA, will restore passenger service along the corridor, utilizing existing rail alignments to provide connection from Reading to Philadelphia with new intermediate stops in Pottstown, Phoenixville, and potentially Norristown. Okay, so there's a few smaller towns that don't have it. That wouldn't get service just yet. That'll probably happen in the future, though. I'm saying Pottstown, Phoenixville, and potentially Norristown. Chicago, Fort Wayne, Columbus, and Pittsburgh. The proposed project will reinstate service on an existing rail alignment, providing a connection from Chicago, Illinois to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, through Fort Wayne, Indiana, and Columbus, Ohio. Buy the line off of NS? Yes. Buy a lot of lines off of NS. Completing the schedule and service development plan. The sponsor is the city of Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's why I said add Royersford. Yeah, definitely add Royersford. There's a few that you really need to add on to that. SEPTA initiatives. SEPTA's most recent strategic plan, SEPTA Forward, identifies several initiatives relevant to SEPTA's service. Customer experience. SEPTA is seeking to make the system easier to use so that stations are improved by enhanced visibility, lighting, wayfinding, and better communications about arrivals. Good. Another improvement is seamless fare systems that work across services and interact with smartphones. Yes. Oh yeah, definitely join Himbo Urbanist. Like, you'd love that. You love everyone there. They're great. Reimagining regional rail. SEPTA is adjusting rail service that is focused on more commuter trips to enable more frequent services, 15-minute, 30-minute, 60-minute, all day and all week, that serve a broader range of trip purposes. SEPTA is coordinating the planning, design, and construction of infrastructure with Amtrak. We'll have to see how well that goes. Along the Keystone Corridor, which is the Paley-Thorndale line, and the NEC, which is the Wilmington, Newark, and Trenton lines, to minimize service delays due to construction-based outages. SEPTA is finalizing a study evaluating infrastructure requirements to increase service on the airport line and is starting similar work on the Manayunk-Norristown line. Fleet replacements. There's a biggie. Much of SEPTA's fleet has been in operation since the 1970s. But SEPTA is starting to replace its fleet with cars that will be more reliable, accessible, and will generally improve the customer experience. We'll need to see who they pick for that. SEPTA is preparing the specifications for the Silverliner 6 to replace approximately 65% of its regional rail fleet. The vehicle to be designed with modern passenger amenities and for improved operation and reliability. Good. Like that one, I have high hopes for. Like I said, they're going to be releasing the request for qualification in December, from what I heard Scott Sowers say. So that one, I'm really looking forward to. Mainline Schuylkill bridges. The 11 bridges between Suburban Station and 30th Street Station were built in 1929 and will need rehabilitation, including replacement of interlockings to provide more efficient throughput for proposed frequent services. Interlockings. Interlockings allow trains to pass from one track to another, and improvements to interlockings will allow operational improvements. Understatement of the frickin' century. Station accessibility and amenities. My friend Dante, who was here earlier, he's really getting in on the accessibility side of things. He's really been looking at a lot of SEPTA stations, seeing where accessibility needs are not being met, and there's a lot of them where they're not being met. SEPTA will be investing in accessibility improvements at stations such as high-level platforms, as well as other station amenities. SEPTA recently completed the construction of Conshohocken Station, and construction is underway at Ardmore Station, among others. Bring back out the MP54s to fix the two cars. If only many of them existed. Not many MP54s are still around, and from what I've seen, the problem with them, I think Jessica's going to hate me for saying this, but the Penzi didn't build them very strong. They were made from like lightweight sheet steel, effectively. Whereas like the Reading blue liners, they were built from the same kind of steel used in shipbuilding. That's why you see a lot more Reading blue liners around, including on the Westchester Railroad. So that's why you see a lot more of them than you see MP54s, because like the MP54 is all rusted to the ground. In fact, this Action News article, Action News video here, I was watching the video that came with it. They were talking to a guy who worked for the railroads around the same time that the Silverliner 4s came around, and he said that he wasn't surprised that the 4s were forced to last like 50 years. He said, and the reason why? Because the old trains lasted 75 years. Yeah, so yes, that guy. So yeah, like those things were old as dirt, and because they were built really light, like really from like lightweight or lighter weight steel, like they were run into the dirt even harder than the blue liners could have, because the blue liners could take it. Anyway, transit-oriented communities program. Yes, that's one of the things we need. SEPTA will be coordinating future rail investments with local jurisdictions and highlight the potential for future transit-oriented development on agency-owned property adjacent to stations and station area multimodal connections, including pedestrian, bike, and micromobility access. That is really good. I've seen them. They're making the move for that in Conshohocken Station, and it's great to see that they're really taking that to heart. The airport line still not got as bad as the East Coast line here in the UK yesterday. Uh-oh. What happened on the East Coast main line? Like everything went to hell? Transit-oriented communities, is that just media, PA? Yeah, that's a good example of that. Conshohocken's actually gotten a lot more transit-oriented, and Ambler is also doing that too. So there's a few. And the main line. Like the entirety of the main line is targeting actual value capture schemes, finally making some moves there. Good. Yeah, exactly. They obviously need to get moving on it a lot more, because like this would be big for the transit agency and also big for like its ridership generally. Like this could be like the biggest ridership driver that SEPTA has had in years. And you improve service, all the better. Safety initiatives. Pennsylvania is committed to continuously improving freight and passenger rail safety, where PennDOT employs a multifaceted approach through the promotion of education programs and the implementation of infrastructure improvements that enhance safety. Notable collaboration partners and safety programs in Pennsylvania include, but are not limited to, Section 130, the ongoing work of the Federal Railway Highway Crossing Program administered by PennDOT in safety at numerous level crossings has been improved. Ongoing PUC activities, as discussed earlier in the chapter, the PUC participates in the FRA inspection program, including inspection of track, train control, rail equipment, signals, operations, and hazardous materials handling. Operation Lifesaver, they need no introduction, but they are the largest rail safety nonprofit in the country, basically teaching people not to try to beat the train at railroad crossings. Do not do that. Do not try to beat the train at level crossings. If you try that and you tie, the train kills you. Just look at Florida. Station improvements projects, safety elements. All station improvement projects in the Commonwealth are evaluated for safety across multiple disciplines and departments, including but not limited to passenger safety, pedestrian, highway, platform, train operations, etc. Safety elements commonly incorporated into these designs include fencing, blue lights, warning systems, wayfinding, emergency access, security cameras, and lighting. And the Amtrak PennDOT SSPP program. PennDOT has partnered directly with Amtrak and the FRA to execute a system safety program, which started in 2023 with safety assessment steps that included establishing a safety policy statement, setting goals, outlining the implementation process, identifying procurement requirements, risk-based hazard analysis, and defining a safety culture. The FRA sanctioned program continued through 2024, will be complete in 2025. Pennsylvania's existing rail system. Okay. It said delays on LNER trains on the East Coast Main Line have made me back hundreds in the cost of first class tickets. Well, you gotta see the silver lining there. You gotta see the silver lining. It made the news in Sweden. There was a stab. Oh yeah, I think I did see that. There was 10 people were stabbed on an LNER train. What the hell? Oh my god, I did see that this morning. Holy crap. Wow. I mean, wow. That is insanity. PA's existing rail system. Let's see if we can get back into this. Description and inventory. Pennsylvania's rail network spans 5,532 miles, making it one of the most extensive in the U.S. The rail network not only supports the shipment of Pennsylvania's products, but also serves as a key bridge to connect ports and markets on the eastern seaboard to economic centers across the country. Pennsylvania's existing rail lines include Class 1 main lines, Class 2 regional lines, and a multitude of Class 3 short lines. While most overhead traffic originating and terminating outside of PA, operates over the Class 1 lines, a robust first mile, last mile network exists in PA, supported by Class 2s and 3s. Rail line ownership. A variety of private and public entities own and operate Pennsylvania's rail lines. Most rail lines in the Commonwealth are owned and operated by freight railroads. The primary exception is southeastern PA, where extensive intercity and regional passenger rail operations are owned by Amtrak and SEPTA. Freight railroads own and operate 5,228 miles of rail lines in PA. In addition to privately owned railroads, multiple public entities own rail freight lines, including government and local governments, rail authorities, and the federal government. Where freight rail lines are owned by private entities, a private operator is contracted to operate the lines. Most rail lines, however, are owned by freight railroads and are exclusively used for freight use. However, Amtrak operates over some freight rail main lines, as illustrated in figure 2.1, which is this map here. Let's look at the map here. So the green lines are owned by Class 1s. It's mostly NS, but there's some from CSX. Class 2s and 3s are in orange. That's all these guys up here. You got Reading and Northern, obviously. You got the Buffalo and Pittsburgh, or Pittsburgh and Buffalo, whatever it was called. And passenger. So the purple lines here are SEPTA and Amtrak. And the reason why it's kind of checkered here is because there's a lot of freight sidings that are owned by NS along the Keystone Corridor. So that why it looks all checkered. It's not that Norfolk Southern part owns it with Amtrak. They don't. Amtrak owns it entirely. It's just that the freight spurs are owned by NS. Let's see. Sell it all to Palantir. God, no. God, no. Just have to say, as someone who spent years supporting campaigns to reopen my local line here on my side of the pond and finally got it back this year, your channel is doing really important work. I hope it is, man. And hey, hopefully someday we have passenger rail as extensive as the UK. I mean, I know the UK rail network has a lot of problems in its own right, and good on you for like supporting the drive to reopen your local line. That's a beautiful thing to see. I want to see that in more places, not only in the US but around the world. I want to see that become a thing. That's fantastic, man. Beautiful stuff. Freight rail in PA. Class 1 railroads annual revenues. What would a Trump train look like? Oh God. I mean, like. You placate him with that a little bit, and maybe you'll get him on board. You never know. Considering how easy to manipulate he is, anyway. So, Class 1 railroads had annual revenues that exceed $1.05 billion. These railroads primarily handle long-haul shipments and comprise the nation's highest volume of freight lines. Nationwide, there are 6 Class 1 railroads with a duopoly consisting of CSX and NS existing on most markets east of the Mississippi River. Class 2s have annual revenue between $47.3 million and $1.05 billion and can provide connections within a specific region. These railroads are often are hundreds of route miles long and serve regional markets, which may include multiple states. 3-meter long gauge, I can imagine. Oh, boy. Class 3s had annual revenues below $47.3 million. These short line railroads provide first mile and last mile connections often between local shippers and the larger freight rail networks. Often these railroads are small, serving a single location or low volume branch lines that cannot be profitably served by the larger railroads. And yeah, and that's how a lot of branch lines are still around. They were sold off to small businesses essentially from like the big roads when they were like breaking down their systems, trying to like streamline things for PSR. Class 1 railroads in the U.S. Class 1s operate 53% of the state's rail freight mileage and over 60% of the state's rail freight tonnage. NS owns 2,400 miles, CSX owns 1,000, and Canadian National, you forget, Canadian National is in Pennsylvania too. They operate the former Bessemer and Lake Erie Railroad. So yeah, that's 156 miles. So yeah, CN is around. And actually, nice little map of the Class 1. So you got CSX down here through like Somerset County, Fayette County, up to Pittsburgh, and then out west. You got obviously CSX going up through Philly on the XB&O main lines, a little bit down here in Adams County and York County. And then like most of the Class 1s is NS. Like it's mostly Norfolk Southern, much to some people's annoyance. And CN right up here, that's the former Bessemer and Lake Erie. Yeah, it's former Bessemer and Lake Erie trackage. So they're still around. They're doing mainly from what I've seen, like coal and steel traffic, which makes sense. So it's right that Amtrak wants to scrap the Am fleets once the Arrows enter service. Not sure how many of those they'd be able to get away with, because I seriously think that I mean, I know the Am fleets are old as dirt, but like they may need to be kept around at least on some routes, especially with more routes like wanting to be built. Like I definitely would see them as being like ones that you would use on like the route to Reading, for example, like because I don't know how many Arrow sets they'd be able to spare to run that service. Class 2s, we got the Buffalo and Pittsburgh, subsidiary of Genesee and Wyoming, the Wheeling and Lake Erie, the New York, Susquehanna, and Western, willful disrespect of Reading and Northern. Like, what? Why you, like, Class 3? I'm pretty sure Reading and Northern's a Class 2. Hold on. Yeah, hold on. Like, let's grab my phone real quick. So Reading, Blue Mountain, and Northern. It's a Class 2. So Yeah, willful disrespect of Reading and Northern there, which I will not accept. I will not tolerate that. Reading and Northern is good. Like, really? Really? Like, I'd rather keep them on standby rather than soup cans. Yeah. I love the little quirks you get with some lines that cross between states, like NJT operating the Port Jervis area. Yeah. Class 2 with the spirit of the old Class 1s. I agree with there, Jessica. So, even less, even more, I will not tolerate the willful disrespect of the Reading and Northern. I like Reading and Northern. They're good. Also, Reading 2102 is awesome. Like, the fact that they run it as often as they do, and, like, they run it hard, that steam engine is beautiful. Yeah, and the quirks with, like, NJT running the Port Jervis service, like, NJT runs it, but it's paid for by Metro North. It's weird, but how often do they run? I think it was at least 12 times this year on, like, special excursions. I went up to see it like 4 times this year. I definitely want to ride it next year. But they do some stuff in winter. They do a lot of spring and summer stuff. And they do something for the Rotary Club every year. And then they do fall foliage specials, which I recently went to see. I think they ended, like the last one just happened. So they're done for the year with 2102, but they're obviously gonna be coming back in force next year. Hopefully get a pick with snow. Yeah, that's that is definitely like that would be beautiful, especially in like February. NJT stores the trains in Morrisville, aka SEPTA country. Yeah, they have a storage yard in they have that storage yard in Morrisville. Look at this. So freight trains per day per line in Pennsylvania. So, like, you got the thin lines, which is, like, the thinnest is, like, 1 to 2 trains per day. There's quite a few of them. There's obviously, like, the big trunk line here going to the state, the ex-Pennsylvania Railroad main line, 36 to 65 trains per day. But, I mean, if you quad track that, like, much of the way like it used to be, that could be a lot more capacity, both for freight and passenger. Of course, NS will not willingly invest that, but still. So yeah, like there's definitely some busy trackage around here. There's definitely a lot of trackage that's being used. But yeah, and like I noticed this thin line here. That's the Keystone Corridor because it's only looking at freight trains. Passenger trains, it's a lot more busy. Rail lines by track count. This is interesting. So it's actually showing like how much of the network is single track, how much of it is double track or triple or quad track. So you got like double track on the Keystone Corridor, basically past Paoli. Double track much of the way. You got quad track going into the city, quad track on the Northeast Corridor. Double track up to Reading, at least in some parts, like not in the Black Rock Tunnel, but yeah, you got a decent amount of trackage here, but a lot of it is single track, and I guarantee you that was not the case before. I guarantee you most of it was double track. So talk about capacity constraints, but it's because they're just not willing to invest the money. If the state can do it, great. Let's see, weight limits. So much of this is geared towards freight, but I know there's a section that I really wanted to look at. Here we are. So looking at passenger stuff. Yeah, I know I saw... okay. Let's see, operating program. So, man, I've been going at it for a while, haven't I? Nearly 3 hours. Jeez, doesn't feel all that long, honestly. Just shows how much I really enjoy looking at this stuff. So I do know there's been some stuff that they are, yeah. I do know there's more sections here with like looking at specific projects, specific things that they wanted to do. Let's see. I know there was one that was looking at zoo, I believe it was. But most of the stuff is just like minor infrastructure improvements to improve capacity, improve safety. Like a lot of this stuff is stuff that's good to do, yes, but it's not like a plan as you or I would think of a plan, which is like meaningfully expanding service, like creating new train services, creating new lines, creating new corridors, that sort of thing. Like that's a whole different thing as far as they're concerned, because they don't really see themselves as having the capability of creating these grandiose plans out there. But if some curmudgeon from the general public, like maybe me, if we can create that sort of vision, that'd be something that will really get people's attention, to say, hey, this is what we can have. We can have nice things. And that's everybody in Pennsylvania. It's not just Philly. It's not just Pittsburgh. It's not just Harrisburg, Lancaster, Allentown, Erie. It's not just them. It's everybody. As many people as can be served with a train line or a bus service. I'm going to say it. Level boarding is awesome. Level boarding, good. Level boarding, very good. Here we go. And here's the one I wanted to find. Proposed passenger rail improvements and investments. Chapter 3 describes a range of proposed passenger rail improvements to existing services, infrastructure, and operations, including providing new infrastructure, new services, and other capital projects to improve Pennsylvania's future rail passenger network. Both intercity passenger rail and commuter rail projects are identified here, as well as conceptual proposals for improved or expanded passenger rail service. So this gives an idea into what they actually think that a plan entails. Project identification. Infrastructure projects are identified for this chapter, having been categorized by the primary passenger rail corridors in Pennsylvania. These include Keystone East. This corridor is a connecting corridor to the Northeast Corridor. Projects that are on the NEC main line, which pass through Pennsylvania, include between Delaware and New Jersey, are characterized as the NEC. And projects between Philadelphia and Harrisburg are categorized as Keystone East. The primary source of info regarding projects is the corridor is the Keystone Master Plan, which is a joint planning effort between PennDOT, Amtrak, and SEPTA. Some projects are also carried forward from the 2020 State Rail Plan. These include the reconstruction or rehabilitation of PennDOT roadways and bridges over the Keystone East line. Keystone West. This corridor refers to the Norfolk Southern-owned rail line between Harrisburg and Pittsburgh, over which the Pennsylvanian provides passenger rail service. The primary sources for the project and the program of investment is sponsored by PennDOT to support an additional round trip of this train. Again, good. Average speed. I think average speed on the Amtrak parts of the line, I think is like 65 miles an hour between Philly and Harrisburg. So like Philly to Harrisburg is like just under 2 hours. But Harrisburg to Pittsburgh average speed is like 45. So, and so you got to deal with Norfolk Southern chicanery. Plus the line is like really winding because it was the Pennsylvania Railroad's original main line from the 1840s, 1850s. And they had to like take a winding route, mostly following rivers. It was mostly following the Susquehanna, the Juniata, and the Conemaugh rivers, winding through the mountains because that's the reason why Horseshoe Curve exists, because the route was gentler and it was cheaper to build. Once a day is nowhere near good enough. Agree completely. Ideally, I'd say at least 10. That'd be great to aim for. Not to mention a future long-term Uber stretch goal that I have, and I think you may be thinking the same thing, which is high-speed rail between Philly and Pittsburgh, which has been looked at a couple of times, albeit not too seriously, because it was made by crazy people in the 80s that thought you could make the current line high speed, which no, you can't. It's meandering, bouncy, and slow past Harrisburg. That's what I've seen too. Like the track quality is apparently really rough on that part of the line. Great views though. Yeah, like the Appalachians there, the Allegheny Mountains are beautiful. But yeah, high-speed rail in Pennsylvania was looked at one point. I did see some pictures of some like proposal documents for such a thing, but it was done in a really stupid way where like one of them was seriously thinking of building a maglev line between Philly and Pittsburgh, mostly following the Pennsylvania Railroad main line, which you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that was never going to work. It's continuous welded. Well, that's something at least, but that's more or less the standard. My average commute is 120 miles an hour. Must be from like France. Wow. It says because mountains. Correct me if I'm wrong if I haven't looked at a map. It is ambitious, yes. Lucid Stew actually made a really good video drawing out what such a thing would look like. In his case, it's loosely following the Pennsylvania Turnpike to build it. And of course, you're building tunnels where you need to. You would need to build tunnels anyway. It's like building in Switzerland. You would need to build tunnels. Oh, UK. So, yeah. So you got your Azumas and stuff. So, so that's like 125 mile an hour top speed in the UK, which is what we have in the US for the Northeast Corridor on trains that are not the Acela. The Keystone Corridor, I think max speed is 110, but the average speed for the whole trip is 65 out to Harrisburg. The wild how low frequency so many Amtrak trains run when I consider how frequently I can get between Edinburgh and London, which is comparable to Philly to Pittsburgh. Yes. Yeah, that's the thing. There's way too few trains. I've yelled about the problem of Amtrak having like not enough trains to run the services they currently do. But it's more than that. It's also like ownership of the track. It's having like no real national structure. It's like just complete disarray more than anything else is the reason why the U.S. has issues. Like, I know Britain has a lot of problems. Gareth Dennis has yelled about that at length of the problems that the U.K. rail network face, not least building High-Speed 2. Like, HS2 is probably as big a shit show at this point as California High-Speed Rail is. Yeah, base tunnel the Alleghenies. That would be ideal. It'd be crazy expensive, but that would be one way of doing it. Definitely check out Lucid Stew's video on what a high-speed Keystone Corridor would look like. It's an interesting idea. Yeah, HS2 will be 200 miles an hour plus. I think they said like the max line speed would be 250. I'm not sure if they'd be able to achieve that on the regular, especially since they just shortened it from London to Birmingham at this point. They're not going all the way up to Liverpool and Manchester. They should be going up to Leeds and Glasgow as well. Yeah, it needs more rural regional rail. That's the thing we were talking about earlier. We need the rural regional rail services in the U.S. That's one of the big things we're missing, and it's one of the things that can really gain consensus into building rail to make it say that, hey, it's not just for the people that go between big cities. It's for small town people. It's for the small town people and like the rural people out there because it works for them too. It works literally anywhere else in the world. Freaking Australia has them, and they're good. They're good. Like Victoria, I'm just picking Victoria in this one because they're the best example, despite their unwillingness to electrify. But oh my god, like it can work. The rural regional stuff would be the stuff to get going there. That's the way you build momentum. Is work on the regional projects that go out to like small towns while connecting big cities in the process, and then you go for the ambitious stuff. That's when after that's all established, that's when you go for the big fancy high-speed rail projects. That's when you go for like the big stuff because you built that consensus over the years that train good and therefore better train more good. But in any case, projects that focus on SEPTA lines beyond Keystone East and the NEC have been provided by SEPTA. These are relevant SEPTA projects on shared lines that are counted in the Keystone East and NEC corridor categories. As of late 2024, SEPTA has prepared a draft Reimagining Regional Rail program. That's the stuff we were talking about earlier. So this would be like the the total estimated cost, the number of projects out there. Here we go. This is the biggie. So Australia got a rail line to a motorsport racetrack, Mount Panorama. As a big time racing fan, I've been a racing fan for years. I love Bathurst. Mount Panorama is a fantastic circuit. I love that you can get there by train. That is amazing. You could go to the Bathurst and just down a bunch of beers with a bunch of bogans and have a great time. And somewhere in the middle, a 1,000 kilometer car race breaks out. It's fantastic. Reopened this year in my hometown. It's in the county with the lowest population density in the UK. Wow. That is fantastic. Not sure which one that would be. It's not Cornwall, is it? Because I know Cornwall apparently has a good bus network, but not like... correct me if what part of the UK I'm thinking of here. Delaware Park used to have special. Yeah, they did. So, key projects on Keystone East include zoo interlocking, Downingtown Early Action, Downingtown Station and Bridge, Coatesville Station, Parksburg Station, Parksburg High-Level Platforms, Lancaster Pedestrian Bridge, Elizabethtown Parking Management, and a cooling tower in Harrisburg adjacent to the right-of-way. And in addition, other major... Northumberland. Okay, so we're talking like north of England. Okay, so I didn't think Northumberland was that sparsely populated, but hey, learn something new every day. But that is fantastic. Like if you can get like a new rail service going in the least densely populated part of the UK, you can get it going in so many places in the US. Like it's that simple. Like honestly, it's there for the taking. We just need to lay out the plan and pester politicians relentlessly. In addition, other major station improvement projects include high-level platform improvements are planned for the following Amtrak and SEPTA stations along Keystone East. They are 30th Street Station, Ardmore, Malvern, Harrisburg, Overbrook, Marion, Narberth, Wynwood, Haverford, Bryn Mawr, Rosemont, Villanova, Radnor, St. David's, Stratford, Devon, Berwyn, Daylesford, Paoli, Whitford, Thorndale, and Lancaster as capital funding becomes available. So they do have plans for every station on the Keystone service and on the Paoli-Thorndale line. That's good. That they want to get that done. That's fantastic. It's good to have that. Just get the funding together and speed up your bloody timelines. This is something that should take 5 years tops. Yes. Zoo interlocking in Philadelphia. Capital cost $55 million for early action projects. Most of the critical improvements on the NEC in Pennsylvania, one of the most critical improvements on the NEC in Pennsylvania is the improvement of zoo interlocking. This project will allow increased train volumes and reduced trip times for the Amtrak Keystone and Northeast Corridor trains, as well as SEPTA's Trenton, Paoli, and Chestnut Hill West lines. It also further reconfigures the zoo interlocking area to allow higher train volumes, eliminate train delays, and reduce running times while also reducing overall maintenance costs. Short-range projects include $55 million in federal funding, state and local funding to improve the interlocking, including signal cable replacement, drainage, tie renewal, etc. The project is necessary to maintain hourly Amtrak service, support 15-minute SEPTA service to Villanova, which is proposed. I believe that's the one that is now Paoli, and reduce delays to all other trains moving through Zoo. Potential future phases of the project may include increased speeds between Paoli and Exton to 110 miles an hour and increased speeds within the 36th Street connection to 60 miles an hour. If you can get this to 60 miles an hour, that would be incredible because Zoo was once good once upon a time, but it's good that investment is being done to make it better. The Pennsy would be proud. They would. And that's one of the key things to improve journey times on the Northeast Corridor is you speed up the slow parts first. Like, sure, like getting the line up to like 160 miles an hour for much of the route helps, but fixing bottlenecks and improving track speeds on slow parts of the line, like here at Zoo, that improves even more trip times. Like I think from what I saw from Nolan Hicks and his momentum report with NYU, you can save like 5 minutes of trip time just by on Metro North's all of Metro North services going into Grand Central just by fixing switches going into Grand Central and increasing speed from like, I think it's like a 10-mile-an-hour speed limit going into Grand Central. Improving that to like 25 would cut 5 minutes off the trip time just by doing that. That shows just how important it is. And that's not even that many tracks to fix as well. It's a lot of switches to fix because Grand Central is a tangled mess of like lines going to a bunch of different platforms. It's like like Grand Central is a glorified train yard at the end of the day. It's just a bunch of tracks. Like it's over 100 tracks going into Grand Central Station. It's ridiculous. Yeah, 150, 160 is not much of a difference. Going from 20 to 60 is the best difference. Precisely. That's the stuff you fix first. It's why I like the Frederick Douglass Tunnel project. That's going from 35 miles an hour to 110 miles an hour. It's something like that really fixes journey times. And fixes bottlenecks too. Center City Tunnel alone on SEPTA also takes 15 minutes after my 60-minute trip. That's a biggie too, because like the Center City Tunnel is it's weirdly slow, really, especially for how new it is. I think you can get like 40 miles an hour line speed. It's limited to 25 or something, and usually they run a lot slower. Here we are, Downingtown. This one's actually kind of near and dear to my heart, mainly because I had a lot of family that lived up around Downingtown on my mom's side, including my grandparents. This would be like if my grandmother were still alive today. Sadly, she passed away back in April. If she were still around, she would probably love this. Approximate capital cost $200 million to build a new station. A bit much, I'd say. That's a bit on the expensive side. Okay, so the existing Downingtown station is located along the Keystone Corridor in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. Nice town, by the way. The existing station location is currently constrained by limitations of available land and track geometry because it's in the middle of a curve and it's in a really weird place in the town. The super elevation and curvature of the tracks make it impossible to provide high-level platforms and achieve modern ADA standards. That was also apparently a problem with trying to build a station to connect with the Strasburg Railroad that was planned for so long at Paradise Junction. Because the track was on a curve and the track was super elevated, you couldn't build a station there and have it be ADA accessible. And every new station needs to be ADA accessible. So that was why the latest attempt at it failed. So good that they're seeing it with this one, and they're going to be building in a new location. It will replace the existing station and will be relocated about half a mile to the east where the Keystone Corridor crosses U.S. Route 322. So if I bring up my handy-dandy map here. So this is Downingtown. Really nice little town, actually. I got a soft spot for it. Nice walkable center to it, and goes along the Brandywine, crosses over the Brandywine Creek. It's really nice. And this is where Downingtown Station is. Also note, you can see this dotted brown line here. Yes, there was a fourth track there at one point. They ripped it out. End my pain. Like, put that track back in and end my pain. You got in a weird spot here where you got a lot of businesses set up along here, a lot of legacy development, and then you got U.S. Route 30. You got Lancaster Avenue, a.k.a. Lincoln Highway. So you got this going through here, and you kind of put in like a weird wedge position, and with the track being curved, that's not going to help very much. So what they want to do is put it here. This is Route 322, also known as Brandywine Avenue in the town. If I bring up Google Maps, probably a better illustration of this. So let's see. It would be here. Which, looking at it from up here, and they actually got some new development going up here. Very nice. I'm pretty sure that's an old image because it's showing like businesses that are set up here. But yeah, they're setting up the new station here, and you got some room from this like derelict set of sidings, including one that's just like gone, essentially. Like, this part of the track looks like it's gone here. So they're going to set it up about here, which is, I like it. It's a good idea. And you build some like paths connecting to this like sprawl development here. It can be usable by a lot of people. Yeah, so yeah, good place. Good place to put it. This location was selected as one of the few areas in the downtown borough that has sufficient straight track. The new station will continue to serve both Amtrak and SEPTA. PennDOT is leading the project with funding from the FTA. Early action project phases include catenary foundations, installation, utility relocations, and the removal of downs interlocking. So they're ripping out a set of switches to get this to work, which, yeah, you need to do in any case here. Where is downs even shown on this? Like, they're ripping out downs interlocking. Where is downs? Somewhere around here, I imagine. Space used to lead to the Reading Freight House in downtown, which buffered and butted up to the PRR main line. Okay, I see. So the proposed Downingtown station will. Okay, the project has a 3-year construction duration, with the construction expected to begin in 2026. So opening date in 2029 thereabouts. Pro Station will have parking in each of the 4 quadrants for the crossing of 322 and the Keystone Corridor. The additional parking spots will provide about 480 spaces, a significant increase in customer-dedicated parking over the existing station. Bike racks will also be provided in each of the 4 project quadrants. The new station will have high-level platforms to allow for level boarding. Lancaster Station improvements. This is the building of a new pedestrian footbridge. The bridge will be built over the tracks and feature an elevator and a stair tower on the parking lot end of the bridge. The project will create a new accessible connection and accommodate growing ridership to be fully compliant with ADA requirements. The $22 million project is being funded with PennDOT and FTA funds. And also, fun fact, Lancaster is the second most used Amtrak station in Pennsylvania, only behind 30th Street, because obviously. So, this one was let's talk about like all the drama to get to this point. Keystone West feature project Second Pennsylvanian Daily Train. Last time Amtrak had 2 trains in each direction between Lancaster City and Pittsburgh was 2005, before the Three Rivers train from New York to Chicago was discontinued. However, PennDOT and NS have reached an agreement to add a second daily round trip between New York and Pittsburgh. The additional Pennsylvania train trip is scheduled to begin in 2026. Analysis by NS in 2021 concluded that the Keystone Corridor between Harrisburg and Pittsburgh could not accommodate an additional train without creating unacceptable delays for both Amtrak and freight trains. The study identified upgrades that would reduce delays caused by the additional passenger train and accommodate future growth in NS freight traffic. These improvements include upgraded rail lines, sidings, and communications infrastructure, and will be constructed and maintained by Norfolk Southern. So, Amtrak trains make round-trip services between New York City and Harrisburg 14 times a day. Of those, only one eastbound and westbound train currently serves stations west of Harrisburg. Amtrak next-gen equipment. The first part is the Avelia Liberties. That's a long, tortured story there. So, remaining 20 sets arriving by 2027. So, like, that's something I'm talking about in my video that I'm releasing next weekend. Keep an eye out for that. That's the history of the Acela is what I'm working on. And the Aero train sets. The Aero train sets are bidirectional and offer dual power modes, allowing for seamless transition between diesel engines and overhead electric power. I know a friend of mine with an Amtrak is kind of skeptical about whether this will work well, but it's good that they're trying it. This eliminates the need for engine changes, particularly with the Pennsylvanian, and will allow this service to be operated under electric power between Harrisburg and 30th Street, because they have to change, the way they work now, they have to change to a diesel in Philadelphia because Harrisburg Station doesn't have room to add like a servicing facility for diesel locomotives. The Aero train sets will provide improved passenger amenities, including modern, comfortable seating, spacious restrooms, and a redesigned cafe car offering more contemporary food choices and self-service options, and lift wheelchair users and people with reduced mobility. Amtrak Aero trains will come with inductive hearing technology to assist with onboard announcements. The new trains are more fuel efficient and produce 90% less particulate emissions in diesel operation than existing equipment. Final tests must be approved by the FRA before the new equipment can be put into service on the NEC. I actually saw the first Cascade set be brought into Philadelphia. They're going to be trying it on the Northeast Corridor and Keystone Corridor. So that's going to be exciting to keep an eye out for. New fleet is expected to enter service in 2026 on the Cascade service on the West Coast, with the next set of trains coming later that year for the NEC. NEC mainline in Pennsylvania. In addition to improvements on the Keystone East and Keystone West corridors, are proposed improvements to the Northeast Corridor. As of 2025, the most recent plan that outlines NEC goals and infrastructure requirements is Connect NEC 2037, published in November 2023. The plan kicks off what the Commission calls a historic era of reinvestment in the Northeast Corridor, which will provide faster, more frequent, and more reliable service. The capital investment plan connects the Connect 15-year vision to a project-level implementation plan for the next 5 years. In Pennsylvania, C37 identifies several projects in 5-year increments over the next 15 years, including catenary replacement west of 30th Street, Penn Coach Yard Intercity Train Set Maintenance Facility, which I've seen they're starting to build, 30th Street District Plan, which is like the developments around 30th Street, Harrisburg Line Track 2 restoration between Paoli and Fraser. Good. You're putting that track back in. Good. You should never have ripped it out in the first place. Mid-Atlantic overhead catenary system replacement between Zoo Interlocking and Paoli. Keystone interlocking improvements and Harrisburg Line signal upgrades. Park to Zoo. Approximately 1/3 of the funding is expected to come from the Federal State Partnership for Intercity Passenger Rail Grant Program. The remainder of funding is anticipated to come from federal discretionary grants and state and local funding. And the improvements to 30th Street here, approximate cost $1 billion to fix up 30th Street, because this project has been a complete mess for years, and I'm going to make a video on it. And I'm not just talking about like dysfunction or anything. I'm talking outright corruption. There's been quite a bit of corruption involved in this project here. That's one of the reasons why it's cost so much. I'm normally not that conspiratorial about these sorts of things, but 30th Street's rebuild has had some corruption scandals hit it, alongside the fact that we are just really bad at building stuff. We have a bunch of bi-mode sets over here that are pretty solidly reliable for jumps up to Scotland, where past electrification ends at Stirling. The IETs. I know a lot of people in Britain don't like the IETs. It's sad because they look cool, and they're dual mode, which is really nice. And I'm hoping that they work just as well over here in the States, because they're not moldable units is the thing. What we're getting is not moldable units. It's essentially push-pull locomotive-hauled sets with a weird setup where you have a pantograph on the second passenger car of the train to collect power and send it to the locomotive when you're under wire. So kind of a weird way of doing it. It's not like a dual mode moldable unit in that sense. So I'm hoping it works out. I really do. 30th Street in District Plan has identified numerous phases to accommodate the next 25 years to accommodate expected growth in ridership with Amtrak, SEPTA, and NJT. So yeah, this whole thing is gonna be its own video. Like it deserves it. Like this deserves a deep dive. Just how much of a mess, how much of an absolute mess this project has been. And it's sad because I love 30th Street. It's probably my favorite train station there. Why didn't they plan to move the intercity bus station to 30th Street? How'd they make such a big oversight? Well, where are you gonna put it? Where at 30th Street are you going to put it? Like, if you were going to build like a gigantic bus terminal covering up the tracks, maybe, but they're not going to be willing to spend that money. Now they're just going back to the old Greyhound station on around near where Reading Terminal is. Yeah, well, there's your problem indeed. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Roz and company are going to be making a there's your problem episode about this mess. And after I go deep diving into it, I'll definitely make my own. So that's definitely gonna be something I'm gonna have a lot of fun nerding out over and just deep diving in. Corridor ID. So, Getting close to the end here, folks. Don't worry. I'll let you have the rest of your day soon. So I'm going to go through these slides here. So we've got corridor ID, Pittsburgh to Philly. That's improving the frequency of the Pennsylvania that we talked about. Reading to Philadelphia to New York. This proposed corridor will connect Reading with Philadelphia and New York City with intermediate stops in Pottstown, Phoenixville, and potentially Norristown that incorporates the NEC for the connection between Philly and New York. Yeah, it's at 10th and Filbert Street. What kind of theme will the intro be for the 30th Street video? I'm not sure, really. I'd have to think about that. I tend to build my videos around the script first and foremost, so I need to work on the script first. Based primarily upon the results of a study in 2020 sponsored by the Berks Alliance and Greater Reading Chamber of Commerce, as well as a study completed by PennDOT that same year. The counties of Berks, Chester, and Montco incorporated the SRPRA in June 2022. The SRPRA envisions an initial phase consisting of between 4 and 8 daily Amtrak-operated intercity round trips between Reading and Philadelphia, and the latter phase will provide for a one-seat ride between Reading, Philadelphia, and New York. The latter phase will require development and deployment of dual-power rolling stock, as well as completion of the Gateway projects in the New York area, currently anticipated in circa 2035. The initial phase is targeted for implementation as early as 2029. That would be fantastic. I'd love to see it. That'd be great because they're really on the path to doing so, and they're really good at drumming up hype about it. I really want to talk to these guys. I really want to make that a video too, talking about what's really going into these sorts of projects, and definitely talk to some of the people at the SRPRA. That would be amazing. So, route between Reading and Philly consists of a portion of the NS Harrisburg division between Reading and Bridgeport, and a combination of NS, SEPTA, CSX, or Amtrak between Bridgeport and 30th Street, depending on which of the alternative alignments is selected in that segment. It's probably going to be Norfolk Southern. It's going to be the easiest way to do it. So, so they did have Royersford and Birdsboro and Valley Forge as, potential stations. Why are they not stopping there? Why? Why are you not stopping in those places? Why is that not being considered? Do it. Do it. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. They're right there. Oh my God, guys. That's one thing I'll probably ask them. Yeah, an interview would be cool. I'd love to do an interview with them. They're fantastic. That'd be fantastic. Scranton to New York Penn. Scranton to New York Penn passenger rail corridor will restore intercity rail service between Scranton and New York Penn Station, providing access to New York City, Northwest New Jersey, and Scranton for employment, business, leisure trips, tourism, recreation, and opportunities at higher education installations along the route. The corridor was introduced as part of the Amtrak Connects U.S. Corridor Vision Plan and long-range transportation plans that show growing demand for intercity passenger rail service along a corridor that has heavy auto traffic and unpredictable travel times for commuters. The corridor will provide an intercity transportation option for historically underserved northeastern Appalachian, Pennsylvania, and northeastern New Jersey. Portions of the defined route already exist as a passenger rail service, and this corridor is wholly public government owned by the Pennsylvania Northeast Regional Railroad Authority, NJ Transit, NJ DOT, and Amtrak. Yeah, if anyone from that group is watching, hit me up. This is worth watching. Yeah, if anyone is out there, send me an email. It's in my channel bio. Since passenger rail service to Scranton was terminated in 1970, there's been strong local and state support for reestablishing Scranton to New York service, and the corridor has been the subject of numerous studies. NJ Transit prepared a 2008 environmental assessment, 2009 SEA, and 2009 received a finding of no significant impact, a FUNSI, if you will. Yeah. So, Scranton to New York entered Step 2 of Corridor ID with $4.9 million obligated to prepare for a service development plan on the proposed corridor. As outlined in Corridor ID, the project will provide new service, 3 daily round trips on a mostly existing alignment, plus some abandoned track to be rebuilt. PennDOT is the project sponsor of the Corridor ID grant, although PNRRA has been heavily involved. Seeing that abandoned track in Oaks, too. The 99 bus gets you there in 7 days. Yeah. Actually, let's see. I'm curious. Because Oaks could be pretty good, because like you said, you got that big convention center up there. Let's see. Oaks. There's Royersford. Where is Oaks? It is around here somewhere. It's 422. It's the Pottsville Expressway. Here we are. Oh yeah, it's about here. Yeah, the Phoenixville Industrial Track goes right up here. There's the Expo Center. It goes right there. It's right there. It's an industrial track. Like, my dude, it's right there. Come on. Come on. That'd be a cool shuttle service for like a really big event at the convention center. That'd be cool. I don't know if they're going to be willing to do that, but still, that'd be really cool. Chicago, Fort Wayne, Columbus, and Pittsburgh Midwest Connector Corridor, or as Alan Fisher calls it, the Rust Belt Limited. The proposed Midwest Connect Corridor would connect Chicago to Pittsburgh through Fort Wayne and Columbus, Ohio, reinstating service on a portion of existing alignment. The city of Fort Wayne is working with the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission and the Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission to advance the project, which is currently in Step 1 of Corridor ID. The proposed rail corridor in Pennsylvania is owned by NS. The corridor sponsor is the city of Fort Wayne. So, SEPTA. So, we're almost done. Don't worry. It's just, I'll briefly touch on this. This is the long distance service study that the FRA put out about a year ago at this point. A couple of these routes probably aren't going to happen. Like this one through South Dakota has been kind of shot down back when Kristi Noem was governor. So that one, the FRA still has it officially. So all these are still on the cards officially there. It's going to take a while to get there because Amtrak needs new long-distance equipment to make this in any way feasible. So kind of touching on that one because they have a long-distance corridor going through PA, down the corridor, through Philly to Pittsburgh, and then all the way to Dallas and Fort Worth. So yeah, that's the main reason why this is on here in the first place. So other initiatives there. So that stuff we'll touch on. I'll touch on that briefly. Bus connecting service connecting Penn State University Park to Amtrak. Okay, so they do realize that State College exists and it has a lot of college kids. You can connect to an Amtrak service pretty well. Nearest Amtrak stations are Tyrone and Lewistown. So yeah, you can have a bus service out to Penn State. Good place to start. Buffalo to Cleveland via Erie. The Erie MPO supports expanding passenger rail service to Erie, which is currently served by Amtrak's Lakeshore Limited once a day in each direction at inconvenient early morning hours. Yeah, that's kind of a problem. The initiative is building broader support to work with the work of All Aboard Erie, the Empire State Passenger Rail Association, and Lakeshore Rail Alliance, a multi-state coalition advocating expanded passenger rail transport serving cities along Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, and other stations in New York State. The corridor was included in Amtrak's 2021 Connects Us plan. The corridor ID application for the Cleveland-Erie-Buffalo corridor was submitted in 2022, but was unsuccessful, though they do intend to reapply for it. Tomotawa Linja, how's it going? There's been just a lot of stuff to go over and a lot of just like frustration that it's just stuff that needed to be done. Yeah, the buses are a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer here. So, yeah, Amtrak Vision Plan. Let's see what else here. Tourist train successes. Hello, Reading and Northern. Oh, Pittsburgh Commuter Rail. Hello. Some stakeholders in Western Pennsylvania, Allegheny County, and the surrounding Pittsburgh counties have suggested studying commuter rail service to Pittsburgh. One public commenter from Westmoreland County remarked that commuter rail service has the potential to reduce congestion on routes 30 and 22, revitalize downtowns, and improve connections for pedestrians in station areas. Blair Planning Commission, the MPO for Blair County, noted that a morning peak period run into Pittsburgh from Altoona with the corresponding evening return run would be beneficial. Currently, if a business traveler wished to make a trip from Altoona to Pittsburgh by rail, 2-night stay for 1 business day would be required. The last commuter rail service to Pittsburgh was known as the PAT train, which operated the PA train, which operated from downtown Pittsburgh's former Baltimore and Ohio station, which is now demolished, and was discontinued in 1989. Other short-haul services originating in Pittsburgh were operated by Amtrak for short periods in the 80s, including the Fort Pitt from Pittsburgh to Altoona and the Parkway Limited from Pittsburgh to Greensburg. The chronic highway congestion on I-376, commonly known as Parkway East, which is routinely congested through the Squirrel Hill tunnels, is one rationale for investing in passenger rail initiatives alternatives. Reactivating commuter service in the downtown Pittsburgh will require coordination with NS to get access to the downtown station currently served by Amtrak. In 2019, PennDOT studied the potential of commuter rail service between Altoona and Pittsburgh. Talking about Pittsburgh, station amenities, TOD, SEPTA initiatives, which brings me to one of the last things I'll talk about. Don't worry, I'll give you the rest of your day. Regional rail projects. SEPTA's capital projects, that's track right-of-way, renewal replacement of track switches, track surfacing, bridges, retaining walls, yard, and grade crossing improvements. Station facilities, rehabilitation and ADA accessibility improvements of station buildings and associated facilities, including roofs and canopies, ticket offices and waiting rooms, platforms, lighting, sanitary facilities, and parking. Rolling stock, you replace the Silverliner IVs, pretty obvious. Communication and signal systems, rehab of signal systems and select communications equipment. Power systems, rehabilitation of electric traction and power systems and associated components, including catenary and support structures and transmission lines. Maintenance and support facilities, rehab of shops, maintenance and storage yards, associated maintenance and support facilities, tunnel lighting, vehicle servicing equipment, and other support functions. And in what universe would all this take to 2055? Serious question. Like, in what universe would this take place in 2055? Like, Silverliner IV has been catching fire recently. That's something we talked about at the start of the stream, Danny. Yeah, kind of a mess, but also kind of a light at the end of the tunnel, thankfully. But seriously, 2055, you have got to, like, it's obvious they have it's obvious they have that just with the current status quo in mind and thinking that nobody will come to their rescue. And then, to put like a nice little capstone on everything, let's talk about this. This is something that came up a while ago, but it's been kind of quiet. But I love it. I absolutely love it. It's the Lehigh Valley Passenger Rail Restoration Study. Look at this. Around Allentown and Bethlehem, you have ideas for services from Allentown to New York through Hackettstown, to New York through High Bridge on the Raritan Valley line. You've got Allentown to Reading. Allentown to Reading. That's the kind of like circumferential connection that I would love. And then Allentown to Philadelphia via Lansdale or Norristown. Ideally Norristown because you don't want to get in the way of SEPTA too much. But this is the kind of thing we need. This is the kind of thing that can really get the ball rolling for like expanded passenger rail service around the state. Like I said, it should not be just for Philly or Pittsburgh. It should be like every major city, every major town in the state. This is the kind of thing we need. This right here. Let's see. This is the kind of stuff that I would love to see. I would love to see this. This would be amazing, especially if it's frequent and reliable and the infrastructure is built down so you can expand both passenger and freight traffic. Because you can do that. You can definitely do that. It's not a zero-sum game, people. And also, what this insinuates is rebuilding the old Reading Company main line between Philly and Allentown. Because right now, it's a freight spur as far as Quakertown, and then it's like a single rail freight spur up to Quakertown, and then it's a trail all the way to all the way to Allentown, I should say, all the way to Allentown. So you have that. You have the right of way still exists. You would need it to be double tracked at least. And I'd argue if you're going to go down that route, electrify from day one and run the service with electric multiple units. That would be that's a no-brainer. That's an absolute no-brainer. If you're willing to invest in rebuilding an old right-of-way, electrify the damn thing. So it's a direct competitor with the northeast extension of the PA Turnpike. Like, this should be as damn close a competitor to 476 as it can possibly be. And the way you do that is electrifying and with frequent service. In 2024, PennDOT completed a planning-level study to examine the feasibility of reestablishing passenger rail service in the Lehigh Valley. The study laid out the opportunities and challenges of reestablishing passenger rail service and the various routes along which a service could potentially operate using existing and former rail corridors from the region. The study presented conceptual operating plans, operating cost estimates, a summary of the advantages and challenges of the three origin-destination market pairs, and a pathway to implementation should a local project sponsor emerge. Regional stakeholders are currently exploring whether to pursue the next phase of study to determine the project's technical and financial feasibility of the project. I'll spare you the trouble. The answer is undoubtedly yes. Like, undoubtedly yes, it is feasible. Yeah, so, like, this right here, this is the kind of stuff I want to see. I love that this is a thing that a local that a local government body has put out there as a thing that can be done. I love it. It shows that there's still some people out there in government that have a vision for this sort of thing. I'm kind of blurry on the details with this one, but these are also people I'd love to talk to because this is the kind of thing we need to strive for. And it's not just the Lehigh Valley too. It can be so many places in Pennsylvania and so many places in America in general. And I think that's a good capstone to end on here because this really shows that for all of the issues that we've gone over with the state rail plan and with SEPTA, there are still some genuinely good ideas out there and some genuinely forward-thinking ideas out there. This is one of them. This is absolutely one of them. It deserves more love. It really needs to be pushed. And you get this sort of thing pushed starting at like a regional level and then you get up to the state level. That would be like, this could be like a dam breaking moment that can really unleash the true potential of rail on the state and the nation. Kutztown would also be hit by this. Yes, send a train to Kutztown University. I think there's a little branch line that goes there too. Like, that would be fantastic. I still want to see the alternate timeline where SEPTA went with the British Leyland Pacer. Nope. Pennsylvania residents got to experience what local rail was like here from my generation growing up. Nope. Oh, God. Like, just saying the name Pacer gives me the chills. Push it real good, indeed. Actually, speaking of Britain, I think, like, the idea of, like, just the idea of the Pacer makes me want to play this soundbite.
Hammond, you idiot! You reversed into the sports lorry!
Because that thing was basically a bus on rails. Also, Top Gear. Classic Top Gear. So, we have been at this for 3.5 hours. I'm going to give you the rest of your day back. So, a lot of thoughts on this one, but on the whole, it's not really a plan. It's just stuff they needed to do. It's not a vision, but there's kernels of good. There is a kernel of good out there. There's good ideas that need to be emphasized further. And that's what I want to do on my channel as well. And that's what I want the activists out there to really push the issue on as well. So I think, as well as anyone else, the fact that this exists as an idea, this is something that a local government wants to get done, it should give hope to us all. There is still good out there. There is good to fight for. Hammond, you idiot, make this a reality. Yes, indeed. Yeah. And, like, and maybe also this too.
All we had to do was follow the damn train, CJ.
All we have to do is run the damn train, CJ. Run the damn train. Let's get this happening. Well, thank you all so much for joining me today. There's been a lot of good stuff to talk about. Screw this. Let's run Pacers. Oh, please, God, no. And for those that don't know what a Pacer is, look it up. Rory McVey has a great documentary about the Pacers on YouTube on his channel. Just look up British Rail Pacer and watch your body quiver when you realize that was what regional and rural services were like in the UK from like the 80s to the 2020s, actually, because they got rid of them in 2021. Well, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. When's the video on the NHSL coming out? Hashtag soon. That one's going to be a little while. So it's definitely one I want to talk about, though. There's a lot of stuff I want to talk about. I will not run out of material. So thank you all so much for joining. But now I have got to give you guys the rest of your day back and give me the rest of my day back. So thanks so much for joining. And let's go out there and make a better future of how we get around, both the channel and in real life.